Literally all you need to succeed in 2025 is learn how to speak English and have some initiative. And you can build like $1 million business.
Who do you think is going to win in a race to AGI?
It's going to be between Google DeepMind and XAI.
No way.
Yes.
Yeah, I think AI is hands down the most fun industry to be in ever. New advancements are literally coming out weekly, if not daily.
Oh my God, don't get me started on the San Francisco entrepreneurs. Like, these guys are so ridiculous, it's crazy. Like, they raised 2 million, spend 1.8 on a domain. It's like, bro, what is happening here? Right, bro, so how many AI girlfriends do you have?
Let me count.
Right now, all of us have like a supercomputer in our pocket, right? But AI glasses are the next thing.
Even today, I see just so many jobs that are completely useless given the latest AI capabilities. Actually, everyone needs to learn prompt engineering.
This is the only AI video you need to watch to succeed in 2025. We talk about how to build AI agents, how to make money with AI, which models we use, the mistakes beginners make, how to build an AI startup, which jobs are going to get replaced, how to prepare for AGI, and so much more. If you want to get ahead of 99% of people, make sure to watch until the end. This is the David Ondrej podcast. Enjoy. All right, Arseny, what's one AI lesson that you learned recently?
The biggest lesson I've learned recently is that business owners will never build their own agents. Zapier or other no-code tools like Bubble, they tried to solve backend engineers, but instead they just started automation engineers and no-code developers. So I believe the same is going to happen with AI agents. The need for AI agent developers is only going to increase as well.
I feel like every business owner wants to implement AI agents into their business, right? But as you said, it's not that simple.
Yeah, exactly. It's not even building AI agents that will be the hardest in the future. It's determining which agents to build.
This is actually a broader life lesson that Sam Altman mentioned, that one of the most valuable things you can do is think about what to work on. Right? So this is the same with the AI agents, like choosing the right agent to build is the same equivalent of like working in the right industry, right? Like we picked the AI industry for a reason. It's like one of the fastest growing industries. But if someone is working in like newspapers, they can be the greatest entrepreneur in the world, but like they're swimming upstream.
Yeah, exactly. You have to know which opportunities are out there.
Okay, so OpenAI just released GPT 4.5. What are your thoughts on it?
I think it's a pretty groundbreaking model. Not groundbreaking in terms of the architecture or in terms of benchmarks. I think it was intentional. Sam Altman said that this model wasn't going to break any benchmarks even before they released it. So I think this was intentional. But the groundbreaking thing about this model is the knowledge. This is the most knowledgeable model. So it's more like a world model rather than just, like a coding or a scientific model.
So why do you think so many people are hating on it then?
Well, as I said, because I believe it should have been released earlier. If it was released like 6 or 8 months ago, most likely OpenAI has just been testing it like they always do for like another 6 months. If it was released at that time, it would have been huge. But now people are excited about the new capabilities with reasoning models. So AI has already propelled forward. And then they just released like this model way later than they should have.
I think another reason why people are just hating on it is because they're only looking at the benchmarks. Like I've seen multiple AI videos where the people haven't even tried the model. Just look at the system card, look at the benchmark, and like look at the API costs and hate it on this model without trying it. And I think that's like just insane, right?
Yeah, exactly. I've actually been playing with it for quite a while now. And
real quick, vectal.ai got a massive update called Infinite Thinking 2.0. This is a huge improvement to our most popular AI agent. So let me show you. Now you can give it an objective such as build a side business in AI agents. Boom. And Vectal will autonomously start working and thinking about your tasks. Now, obviously, you can interrupt it at any point and give your thoughts, or you can enable YOLO mode. This is another new feature which gives the AI agents even more autonomy, allowing them to save you even more time. Today, we're rolling out Infinite Thinking 2.0 to Vectal Pro users. So if you want to try it yourself, make sure to use the code INFINITE to get a 30% off. This code is only available for the next 5 days because we're celebrating 5 months since the birth of Vectal. If you want to have AI agents that do your work and tasks for you, go to vectal.ai and sign up.
This is the first model that actually generates valuable insights out of the box. Like all other models, if you ask them for some like deep insights, they just generate generic garbage. But this model, it actually provides something that you can read and think about.
Yeah, I mean, if I was to get like life advice about anything from any model, I would choose 4.5 for sure. It just doesn't feel like it's only generating the next token. These like deep philosophical, like, questions that don't have one clear answer, from my experience, were the best as well. I asked it like, what's one philosophical school of thought that would bring you the most results in your life, even if it's not popular in the mainstream? And it completely nailed that question. Have you tried using this model in Cursor?
Yeah, I did. And actually what I found is that the way it follows instructions is unmatched compared to all other models.
Yes.
This is the first model that was able to really follow all of the instructions in our prompt for building agents with Cursor using my framework, which contains over like 570 lines. And it was able to actually adhere to all of these instructions. So it followed like everything perfectly, like it didn't miss anything.
There is some situations where if it's like a complex error, I switch to Claude 3.7 thinking. But for 90% of prompts, this is like the ideal model because it never oversteps, right? Claude 3.7 just tries to do too much. It like starts updating other files, start importing packages. Like I have a legit like a custom prompt that I have to tag for a 3.7 every time. This model is just like so natural to work with. Again, you won't see it on a benchmark, but like working with it is so pleasant.
So how are you personally using GPT 4.5?
Well, right now I added to Vectal yesterday, so I'm going to be using there as a chatbot. For coding, honestly, I'm going to probably use it as my main model. Like it sounds crazy because on benchmarks it's worse than 3.7, right? But again, you can easily switch in Cursor between models. So for 90% of prompts, I think I'm going to use 4.5. And also shout out to Cursor for giving me unlimited access, so I can burn through the tokens like crazy.
They're gonna regret this.
Well, I brought them plenty of views, so I think it's fair. But yeah, I think like, for example, tweets, right? I have plenty of ideas, but sometimes like wording it in the right way is difficult. Yeah. In this, I can just give it like my 10 best tweets of all time and tell it like, here is the idea, format it in the right way. And it's so good at this.
So in your opinion, what's the biggest mistake that beginners make in AI?
I think it's actually looking at the current state of AI, right? So many people are short-sighted, looking at the daily hype that's happening on Twitter and not looking back or forward, especially people that are completely new to AI. They come in, they ask some poorly worded prompt, get a mediocre answer and say like, AI is overhyped, it's just the next trend, right? But if you are able to see like, okay, 3 months ago, we were here. O3 didn't even exist, it wasn't even announced. Now we have like O3 Mini, O3, Grok 3, Claude 3.7, GPT 4.5, DeepSeek R1, it's crazy. 6 months in the future, it's going to be even crazier. And a lot of people completely fail to do this for exercise and then don't go all in into AI.
I see. So it's like people are just not seeing the pattern here, not seeing how fast AI develops, and they just miss out.
Yeah, they just look at like the current thing they can get in the short term, right? It's like going to the gym and then after you come home, look into the mirror, it's like, I don't look any different. I guess it doesn't work, right? This is the same exact thing people are doing in AI.
Got it. And how did you get into AI?
I just burned the boats. Like in April of 2023, I decided to stop doing what I was previously doing. So I had a gaming channel. It was making like 20K a month, which is pretty solid money at 20 years old. But I stopped uploading and I jumped into AI because I knew I would regret if I didn't. So, I mean, obviously, most people cannot do that. But like, if you have a 9 to 5, I would slowly start transitioning, right? Let's say you want to build your own AI startup. Do not quit your job. Like, slowly start building it, right? Monetize it as the income grows, or maybe your AI agency, whatever, right? As the income grows, let's say it's like 80% of your salary and you're only putting in 3-4 hours a day, then logically, if you're putting 8, 9, 10 hours a day, you would be making more than your job.
Did you have any like programming skills when you were getting started?
Only very slight, to be honest. And actually, this is a myth completely. Obviously, if you want to build an AI startup, it helps to have some programming knowledge, but actually, it also hurts you. Right now, I have 2 developers, and they were much better than me. But when I watch them use Cursor or Windsurf, they're not utilizing the AI nearly as much.
Interesting.
For me, I when I'm inside of Cursor, I cannot go more than 3 or 4 minutes without asking a prompt.
Yeah.
They can go 30 minutes without typing a single prompt, right? So for me, that's absolutely crazy because a lot of times you can just say like, the button doesn't look right, try something else. Type that in 5 seconds and it's done. But the experienced developers, they have too much skills themselves so that they don't use the AI enough.
Yeah, exactly. I've also noticed this, to be honest. It's really hard to teach people who haven't used AI before to transition those new AI coding tools. So let's talk about your startup because honestly, last time we talked, I think you didn't have anyone on your team except for yourself. You were building this app completely by yourself, just using Cursor. And Cursor.
And Claude.
Which is crazy. Yeah, that you actually vlogged it all as well. So why did you decide to hire people?
Well, it's just the next natural progression, right? like, what's better than one person using cursor? Two people using cursor, right? So like it's not that deep. So yeah, I knew I wanted to build it into a legit startup. So I have multiple like businesses, right? YouTube, New Society, the startup. I cannot focus on like every single UI tweak or every single small bug, right? So I need to have developers who have more expertise, right? I also followed your advice of hiring someone who can help me with the architecture and like the designing the code base, because that's where I have zero knowledge, right? And that's Cursor will not do that for you, right? So there are limitations, obviously. So I recognized that, okay, this is going to be a pain point, and I hired people, the best I could find, for that position. So, I got it to like 5K MRR completely by myself. Now it's like, I think 9K we crossed today. So I have 2 developers, still losing money because, infinite thinking's API costs are pretty crazy, but yeah.
Yeah, so what's the new infinite thinking feature?
Yeah, so it's one of the new features we released, and basically it's like the looking into the future, right? The feature right now is mostly used towards beginners. Beginners value it the most. People who come into Vectal and you just turn it on and it suggests tasks based on your goals. It just thinks infinitely about your goals, right?
So what's the end result?
So reasoning model thinks about all of your active tasks, user preferences, which is like your work description, short-term goals, long-term goals, any other context. And then it has a list of action types it can do. Right now it's create a task, update user context, break down a task, and I think create a node. We have like 5 or 6 different action types. So basically it reasons about your tasks and then chooses the one where it can help you the most. So that's what I mean. For beginners, it's super valuable. The more advanced you have, it's becoming less and less. But again, this feature is not for today. It's built for 3 months, 6 months into the future, where models are more powerful and we give it more tools. Imagine like we added ultra search, right? Which is our version of deep research. That could be one of the action types that infinite thinking can take. Like if you have a task like prepare for a video, and it's like, okay, we need to work on this task. It's the most important one. Let's do deep research just on this task. And you just have it running and it just works on your behalf.
Got it. So in the future, it will not just be like thinking, it will be actually executing the tasks.
Yes.
It will be prioritizing your tasks. It will be exploring different options.
Yeah, it can do that, the reordering of the tasks.
Okay, makes sense. Any other cool features that you have planned?
I mean, we released GPT 4.5 yesterday. Perplexity did 10 searches a day, 10 uses a day, so we did 11. We had to beat them. I added Ultra Search, which is actually built on top of Perplexity Deep Research API. So Ultra Search is like our version of Deep Research, but obviously it takes into account all of your active tasks and all your user context. This is what Logan Kilpatrick from Google told me, is that you cannot really expect the user to do the work. So many AI tools put all of the burden on the user. You have to come in with the idea, you have to come in with the prompt, you have to give it all the context, and then it does something, right?
Yeah.
But my vision for Vectal is the exact opposite. I want people to just have their tasks in Vectal, ideal calendar in the future as well, and ask the AI, and the AI agent will know, like, you have a podcast scheduled for today. Probably shouldn't book anything in that, shouldn't create event in that. Or like, let's say you have already a super busy day. When you create a new task, it will not put it on that day, right? It knows your goals, so it automatically gives the task 1 to 100 importance. If you say like buy new shoes, it's probably a low importance task. But if you say like, upload a YouTube video, it's probably very high importance, right?
Right. What is one piece of advice that you would give to someone who is just starting to build their first AI startup?
I mean, it's not like a part-time thing, I would say, right?
Yeah.
So even though I had like 2 other businesses at that same time, I was starting like a coaching high-ticket thing. I just refunded all of my clients and focused on the startup. Most people would just go for the short-term revenue, right? Like high-ticket info, high margins. But I wanted to build a startup for 2 reasons. I enjoy building software. It's just like programming. I could do that 12 hours a day easy. And second thing is just long-term leverage, right? If you sell like info product, yeah, sure, it's like quick curve, but then you cap out, you hit a ceiling. With a SaaS, you can go to billions.
Yeah, exactly. Because with a SaaS, you're building value.
Yeah.
Like the difference between an info business and a product business is that in a product business, customers derive value from the product itself. So with the product, it's like as long as your product exists and as long as it provides value to your customers, they're going to be subscribed. So
yeah,
like the more customers you get, if your retention is good, like the more value you build over time. So it can actually go exponential to like crazy numbers. And that's what actually I did as well. I had a choice between also making like an info business, teaching people how to build AI agents, but I actually decided to build my own platform as well. And it's going really well, I'd say. We just hired also
so
like 3-4 more
explain the
people.
product.
Yeah, the product is essentially a horizontal agent builder that allows you to easily build and deploy your own agents. In the end, it's going to be a marketplace. So in the end, we're actually going to be competing with platforms like Upwork. The end vision for us is that whenever you want to start a business in 5 years from now, you don't go to Upwork to hire your people like I did. You first consider hiring agents that other people build on Agency AI, which is our product.
I mean, if there's like a super high reviewed AI agent, right? Like 4.9 stars used by hundreds of people, I would, because like the AI agent can start working right away. So I would hire that over like some person who's like 3-day turnaround, maybe they cancel it.
And it's also infinitely scalable.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the primary advantages of AI agents compared to your employees.
And it solves the problem you described, that the business owners who have no clue about AI don't have to build it themselves. If there's a specific AI agent for like writing viral copywriting or creating landing pages, whatever, right? You could just use that one.
Yeah, exactly. So those are called vertical agents. Those are the agents that are customized for specific use cases. I think there's going to be a huge market for such agents in 2025 and beyond. But I also think that horizontal agents are also a really large opportunity, and horizontal agents will also always be required. So right now we're focusing primarily on these. We're just starting to build vertical agents, but we've already built like 150 horizontal agents. But you see the problem is that they're not like really reusable across different businesses, but in the end they can provide more value. So our platform is going to allow you to do both. It's going to allow you to build both horizontal agents that you can deploy only in like a specific business. But then what you will be able to do is also create a template, which is essentially a vertical agent that you can then post on our marketplace and then charge your own pricing.
I see. So like basically developers could use your platform to build agents for others and then make money on your platform.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not just the AI agents would be making the money. It's like the developers building them would be making the money as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course. Otherwise, there would be no incentive for them to add them to a marketplace. So they will be able to add their own pricing plans depending on the pricing structure that they'd like to select. We will also, of course, be fully testing all of this ourselves. So we're doing it first for our own clients. We're testing, we're seeing what works, what doesn't work, which pricing models makes the most sense. And then we're adding it to our platform.
Honestly, I'm pretty excited because just the one AI agent that you ran for me, the GitHub one, super useful already. So your platform is going to be crazy.
Yeah, want to talk more about that agent?
Yeah, so basically, like, I needed to hire developers, right? I asked you what to do, and you said like, oh, just find like a GitHub repository that's relatively small, like targeted to what you're looking for. So I sent you the link, right? And you gave me like a scrape of all the people, so it was like 5,000 or something. But the AI agent ranked them based on like their commit history, like the LinkedIn, you can probably say what. Some of it is proprietary, right? But it just gave you like a list of 5,000 people ranked based on how good of a developer that person is. So like that's insanely valuable for companies, right?
Exactly. Yeah, this has been one of the most transformative AI agents that we've built for ourselves. This agent allows you to instantly find any candidates based on GitHub repos. This is how we hire most of our key positions. If you're interested in working with us, you can also, of course, apply. But
link below.
Yeah, but what we also do is we sometimes reach out to some candidates who are just like so OP that typically they're not looking for jobs.
The best people always have a job.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why this agent, it helps us to scrape like all of their information from GitHub. Then it ranks it for all of the different open positions that we have. And it's so accurate. The best thing about this agent is that it's incredibly accurate. And the reason I know it's so accurate is because all of our best key employees right now are on top of the list that this agent generated.
And doing that manually would be hundreds of hours.
Yeah, at first I actually tried doing this manually with my assistant, but we could only get like 10 new candidates per day, while this agent can generate 5,000 for you.
It's crazy. Like the leverage you get, like, see, this is like pretty advanced, but even like simpler, you can build like super simple things, right? AI agents or automations. For example, one thing that anybody can do in 5 minutes. By the way, if you want to see how I built Vectal, my AI startup, from $0 to $14,000 a month, all of that is documented in the New Society. Inside of the classroom, we have this module right here, how to build an AI startup. And in there, I documented from day one, from the very first moment when I chose the idea to today, when Vectal makes over $14,000 a month in monthly recurring revenue. All of that and more is in the New Society. So if you want to start your own AI startup, or if you want to learn how to build AI agents, make sure to join the New Society. It's going to be linked below in the description. Go to NA10 and do the Gmail module. And any incoming email that comes to your Gmail goes through like Claude or GPT-4o, and it just decides whether to mark it as read or whether to give it a star. If it's some like spam, like you have a subscription, blah, 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 it just marks it as read. So when you check your email, 70-80% of emails will be marked as read because they're not important. And obviously you can customize the system prompt, so you can say like, emails from this person are always important, or emails about this topic, never mark them as read, right?
Yeah.
So you can customize the prompt. But this, for me, like I have it deployed on my emails, saves me like 80 to 90% of my time. And obviously I also have like assistant going through my emails, saves him time. So it's like, this is like super simple, 5-minute build, and it's huge.
Yeah, but this one is like more in AI automation rather than in AI agent.
Sure.
So I want to talk about like the difference between automations and agents.
Yeah, you're right. But I would say the argument is that this is easy for beginners to get into, right? Like na10, make.com, whatever, it's super easy to get into. So I would actually recommend people start there. Because like, going into code and building an AI agent, like obviously your platform is going to be much easier to build it with, but it's still work in progress, right? In 6 months, it will be much better. But my point is that like for people who want to actually go beyond ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, whatever, they should start to build some automations with make.com, na10 and stuff like that. Because in 30 minutes, you can build your first automation and it's going to save you time forever, for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Yeah, I also think that automations are incredibly powerful if used right. Like in our agency, we still sometimes build automations if we see like, that it makes sense for that client. If they're wasting like so much time on like a really simple task, maybe then you don't really need an agent.
Yeah, so the difference is that with AI agent, it makes the decisions on which tools to use, right? So this would be more of an automation. It's like super simple, right? But in na10, it actually has a pretty powerful AI agent. You told me about that, so thanks for that. And you can give it many tools, right? Like your calendar, Gmail, you can give it other like workflows to connect to. And based on the prompt, so you can just like connect to WhatsApp, Telegram, send a voice message, and it just does the actions. It analyzes what you said, and it decides which tools to use. You can use multiple tools, like, let's say you have incoming leads coming into your business, right? But depending if the lead is qualified or not, you can use different tools, right? If it's super qualified, it sends it like immediate link to book with your best sales guy.
Yeah.
If it's like medium qualified, it goes to your other sales guys. If it's not qualified, it says, sorry, right now we're full, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, so that's the difference between automations and agents. You see how an agent, it doesn't just like do something and then stop. The agent actually determines by itself among a list of actions, which action that makes the most sense, and then can also combine them together to produce real results.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think people who get into this, automations is a nice segue, but I would definitely recommend them to go further and build AI agents.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so how are you going to use GPT 4.5 when building AI agents, or is it simply too expensive?
No, I believe actually costs are not the problem. In our agency, actually costs always make sense. It's very rare that, the model costs don't make sense for internal use cases. It can happen for external use cases where you have like thousands of users using this model. But for internal use cases, just compare it. Like, a novel on GPT 4.5 costs like $70 or something, right? So that's unknown. Like
the entire book.
It's an entire book. Like imagine how many actions the model could take for those $70 for 1 million tokens.
Well, imagine hiring a person to write a book for you.
Yeah, exactly. That's like a day of work. Like, I mean, for a model, it can be like 3 days, 4 days of work for these $70, like non-stop work, day and night, to just generate these 1 million tokens with different actions along the way. So for an employee, these same like 3-4 days of work would be how much? Like on average, $300, $500, depending on the position.
Where you live,
And then you also have multiple employees performing the same process. Then there are also inefficiencies in the process. So I think if you pick your use case for internal agents, GPT 4.5 costs are not the problem.
For me, I'm going to probably spend I did the math, probably like 4K.
4K?
On GPT 4.5. Just me using it in Cursor.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant on your startup. So I was
no.
How are you planning to monetize it?
No, I had to limit that, because it's crazy. But no, I agree with you. Like for internal usage, like people shouldn't be scared to use AI. That's another mistake that a lot of people make, especially when they build an AI product, right? AI SaaS, whatever, is they want to try to be cheap. It's like they optimize for cost way too early. You can always cut costs later on, right? Like right now, today, if I wanted, I could reduce my API cost by 95%. Easily. Just switch to Gemini. Exactly. Like Gemini is so cheap, it's crazy.
And I don't even think that you need to switch to another model right now, because the costs are going to go down anyway. Like we've seen this basically throughout the last 2 years, costs just consistently going down with each new release. Like with the previous GPT-4, it was also like 6 times more expensive than GPT-4o. And then when GPT-4o came out, like you didn't even have to do anything. The costs just were cut by 6, like instantly. So I think the same will definitely happen in the future. So even if your margins don't make sense right now with those huge models, in the future they will.
But you're one of the few people that realize this. Like, I thought I was going crazy when like all those new models were coming out, right? I was one of the only people who were giving unlimited access. Like, O3 Mini came out, unlimited access.
Yeah.
DeepSeek R1, unlimited access. Claude 3.7, unlimited access. It's like, it's a no-brainer, right? Like, obviously, I have some very high limit against automation, which is against our terms of service, so that people cannot bot our SaaS. But there wasn't a single paid user that ever hit those limits. So it's basically unlimited. And I don't know, like, I think most people are so worried about costs before they have any product market fit. It's ridiculous. Like, costs are always so easy to cut back. What's not easy is getting thousands of users and getting product market fit. So I think people should be way more aggressive and think about agentic features that just run all the time. Another AI agent we're going to add into Vectal soon is that each task right now is a name and description. There's going to be like an AI description. And depending on your plan, let's say for a free plan, it could be once a day. On a paid plan, it could be 3 times a day. There's going to be an automatic AI agent in the background that just does a bit of work on that task. So maybe browses the web, maybe breaks it down, writes some notes, anything. And this will just be running on all your tasks, right? And again, it will be expensive in API costs, but it doesn't matter. Like, right now I'm spending probably $200 a day, something like that. Something crazy, especially when I switched from normal DeepSeek to Perplexity DeepSeek, which is built-in web search, which is much more expensive. But yeah, I don't care. Like, you can always solve that problem later on.
So what's your advice for starting a product like yours?
Yeah, so I think it's a full-time endeavor, to be honest. You can't really do it part-time, minimum 3 hours a day, I would say. Minimum 3 hours a day. Otherwise, just you won't get anywhere. Like, yeah, you can use Bolt, you can use Lovable and stuff like that to, V0 to get a quick prototype. But the hard part is after that. Like taking that, moving into Cursor and actually making something out of it. Connecting authentication, connecting payments, front end to back end. Like all of that stuff is currently like, I would say 1 or 2 steps away from what AI can do. Yeah, in 12 months, AI could do all of that, right? You just turn on Cursor YOLO mode, you type in your idea and it just runs. You trust it with the terminals, like it's fine. So it's a full-time thing. Like people shouldn't just say like, oh, I'm going to build my AI startup and expect to start making 10K a month. Every category of SaaS, either the companies will replace themselves or they will get replaced by AI first company, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Cursor, Perplexity, we can already start seeing this. People who really understand AI from the ground up and understand how important AI agents are, they will replace the incumbents that take like 4 years to add A/B testing into YouTube, right? Like we do like nearly daily updates. I don't understand how people are moving so fast. It's literally just me and 2 developers and Cursor. And like we're cooking so fast. So I don't know, like people who have startups with hundreds of employees are not doing anything. So what advice do you have for new startup founders?
So right now, I believe we are experiencing fundamental transition from SaaS to AAAS. A completely...
That's a crazy name.
It's an excellent name. So the transition is that now, instead of simply providing you with the tools to perform a specific process, the agents perform the process for you.
Yeah.
So it's so much more valuable because it automates the entire process. It like closes the loop. Instead of you having to hire people in order to use these tools and constantly scale up your team each time you want to go to the next level in your business, the agent just does all of that for you and it's infinitely scalable. So that's the fundamental transition. And the process of building these agents is actually really simple. Like it's just basically hooking up APIs to your agents. And there are so many available APIs that can help you solve these problems online. Like you can literally just go to Rapid API, to all of those API marketplaces, find the necessary APIs that you need, that the agent actually needs to solve these problems, add some proprietary data if you have access to it, that's even better. And then instantly the agent can work in your customer's business and solve that problem for them.
Also, you can use GPT 4.5, which I think would be probably the best at this. And I've seen some great prompts where people say like, given this industry, what are some of the like bottlenecks in the supply chain that would be great business opportunities that aren't as mainstream, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think GPT 4.5 is just so great for brainstorming. Again, just because it's so knowledgeable, it like knows every industry in and out. It doesn't, of course, have like all of the internal data, That's the problem with these models. That's
Then you
why
would
I
do
believe,
deep research.
yeah, you can
Easy.
use deep research, but still, you see, deep research, it just finds the most relevant data, but it still doesn't find the internal data. So that's why I believe that actually these models, they will never be able to create $1 million business by themselves because they have never seen this most precious internal data. So in order for them to really create a $1 million business, they need to be trained on this data that creates these $1 million businesses, because essentially a business is just like a set of processes, right? So you need to first find these processes. You need to find the documentation for these processes. So that's where AI agent developers come in. You have to uncover these processes, and then you have to put them into these models with the right actions integrated into the right systems. And that's when they can then perform this process that then builds a $1 million business.
So fundamentally, you just have to start somewhere. Most people have some expertise somewhere, right? But let's say you're like, I don't know where to start. You need to start somewhere. You can just put in the prompt and let the AI do what the AI says, right? Like when I was starting, like I didn't know what was the best tech stack. I asked Claude 3.5 Sonnet. It gave me, right? So like you can use the AI tools to get you directionally correct and then pivot later on once you know better. But so many people, like the biggest mistake isn't like choosing the wrong industry. The biggest mistake is not getting started.
Like you won't have to do anything. But most people will completely miss out on that simply because they won't even send the first prompt.
Exactly.
So what you need to do is just take initiative, be curious, explore how these systems work, and then determine where you could apply them, because the application process is going to become easier. It's determining, again, where to apply these models. That's going to be the most valuable.
It will probably fix it. Or try a different model. Like all you need legit is ability to type in English and initiative, and you can build like $1 million business in the next 2 years easily. Like, I just believe that fundamentally. I mean, I've done it with Vectal. I didn't do any coding. I was just typing in English.
Yeah, and the amount of work that this is going to take is going to be also significantly reduced. Like you've done it in 2 years, but this is just the beginning. In the future, it's going to be 2 months.
Well, I built Vectal in 2 months.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be 2 weeks and then 2 days.
2 days.
Yeah.
Maybe 2
but
days.
But still, as you said, the biggest difference will be the initiative, right?
Yeah.
I've heard some like take on Twitter is like SaaS founders should fear their customers rebuilding their SaaS in 45 minutes. It's like, that's absolutely ridiculous, right? It's like the deep expertise you gain only by spending hundreds of hours in Cursor, by talking to customers, seeing where they get stuck, right? You cannot just have one people say like, oh, I'm going to rebuild your platform in one afternoon, right?
I mean, you can try it. Like
there's plenty of people who try to rebuild Vectal and it's like really? Always like, go ahead, bro, go ahead.
Yeah, because you're always going to be one step ahead.
Yeah.
While they copy the previous stuff that you've built, you already have some new feedback and you already know what you're going to build next. So why would your customers use someone else's platform if you're always one step ahead?
And also, it's not like you can copy everything, right? Like a lot of that magic is in the systems and processes. You can copy the front end and like a features, whatever, but you won't see like the back end prompts on like hidden agent that's like 3 layers down, right? Or like the architecture of the code base, or like why we designed it that way. You won't see those things, right? For example, Netflix, like the value of Netflix is like the ability to design all those systems and like the bottlenecks of having that so much data. There's only a few people on the planet who can design those, right? Like that. So you cannot just rebuild Netflix with bold.new. You can rebuild the front end, but like it's not Netflix, you know?
Right. And the user base is also quite important.
Yeah.
Like the brand that you build by building a product. That's also something that's really hard to copy.
Definitely. Okay, so what code editor are you currently using and why?
I'm using Cursor.
Okay.
I tried Windsurf. And by the way, our entire team is using Cursor as well. Our bill is like 500 something per month. Not too crazy.
Rookie numbers.
Not like you.
Rookie numbers.
Yeah, I think they're not using it as much as you do for sure. They haven't hit the limits. Or maybe the business limits are bigger. I'm not sure. But the reason we're using Cursor is because of the context problem. You see, it's like these models are always significantly more powerful if you provide the right context. So the way we do this in Cursor is by adding this special Cursor rules file. I think this is like the best feature of Cursor across all other features, is that you can create this Cursor rules file for any project that you work on. And then whenever your developers work on that project as well, Cursor already has all of that information, all of that context. So when the developer sends a prompt like, okay, we need this front-end component, it doesn't just generate it into like some random folder. It generates it in a folder where it should be. So that's, I think, the biggest feature of cursor. Why this feature is so important is because this can actually replace playbooks for you. So this, what I've been thinking about for a while now, is like how in the future we can actually replace standard operating procedures with simple AI prompts.
Yeah, because right now they updated it. So before it was like only .cursor rules file. Now you can have .cursor folder with rules subfolder, and in there you can have like many markdown text files that are like specific to like front end, back end, database design principles. And then either you can tag them or the AI automatically chooses them, and you can have it like super targeted, right? So instead of having to restart from scratch and like analyze all files, you just have like that nice summary of like, this file is used for that, or we use this colors or this color palette, and it's super valuable.
Yeah, that's how we're planning to rebuild all of the Zapier integrations in the next 6 months. Or, okay, not all of them, they have like 7,000, but I'd say we'll rebuild like the most important 20%.
Yeah.
So people won't even notice that some are missing. But yeah, the way we're trying to do this is by creating a really well-structured project where everything is encapsulated. So where we have specific classes for different things, and then creating a cursor rules file that describes all of these classes. So then whenever you send the prompt, like, okay, can we create an integration for Google Chat for our platform? It actually goes into the code, it extends these classes, and then since it already knows how to work with most publicly available APIs, it instantly generates the code for those classes that creates the integration. So this is the power of cursor. Like when you have really well-architected product with cursor rules, it can be incredibly powerful because it literally just gets you like 90-95% there. So all the developer needs to do is simply like double check the code, and then if there are any issues, just send like another prompt, and then it's ready to go.
Yeah, you just need to test it, right? Like if the AI does a big change, right? Obviously you should look at what you're accepting, but sometimes it's just easier to test it. And this is, I think, another thing where being a beginner is almost an advantage, because the professional developers, the experienced senior engineers, they trust their skills too much. They write it and then don't test it. For the beginners, they use the AI for it, right? Maybe they don't have such a deep understanding, but they test every feature and they can move faster and it actually works. So this is also another pattern that I noticed.
And actually, a really good tip for using cursor, especially with the new cursor agent feature, is to always tell it to generate a test first. So what we do now, we actually don't even run the tests anymore ourselves, because cursor agent can now do this for you as well. So what we tell it to do is first you generate a test, and only then you generate the code. And what this allows you to do next is essentially test the code as the cursor is generating it. So if there is an issue in the code somewhere, cursor will notice it by itself. It will run the test, it will see the error, and it will just keep going until the feature is actually fully complete. So the developers can actually just look at the tests. Like they don't even have to run them. They can just check if the test is correct. If there's something missing in the test, the feature could be incorrect. But if the test is correct and if it performs it correctly as well, then the feature is complete.
Actually, I've seen a research paper on this where the AI was cheating by altering the test so that they passed. So right now there's a bit danger with that, but it's definitely on the right track, right? Because like you can automate even that process where you normally would have to have QA testers, like takes forever, right? You can have the AI write the tests and just run them. And especially, I want to touch on this feature, cursor YOLO mode. A lot of people don't even know this exists because it's in the settings, but basically cursor agent can use the terminal, right? But without YOLO mode, you have to accept everything. If you enable YOLO mode, it can run the terminal commands by itself. And this feature is just insane. And I think like in 3 to 6 months, this is going to be like unbelievable. You will literally watch it and then like only correct it, only do human in the loop when it needs to. Like let's say it's using a package and it's like, let's use this package rather, right? It designs a button, you have like your cursor, you have your UI. I don't like that color. And you correct it, right? And it will be so insane. Even right now it's so good. And you can actually disable that it cannot delete files. And you can give it a list of terminal commands it cannot never run. So it's actually a lot safer than people think. And for me, all I need to do is like, if I'm working on some update or some fix and it's good, I just say, looks good, let's push this to GitHub. That's it. It does git status, then it does git add dot, it stages the changes, then it writes the commit message, it does git commit, writes the commit message perfectly because it worked with me on the feature. Even more detailed than me, because a lot of developers skip the commit message and write it super concise. and then it pushes to GitHub.
Yeah, I think where YOLO mode will also shine is with the more knowledgeable models like GPT 4.5, because that's, I think, the biggest advancement with this latest model is that it hallucinates like 2 times less than GPT 4.0. So it's significantly less hallucinations than any other model, which means that now you can actually run it pretty much by itself. Like you don't have to supervise it as much anymore. So you can just literally allow it to run by itself and be pretty confident that it's gonna come to an end result.
And this model is actually perfect for YOLO mode because it does precisely what you described. There are models that don't do enough, right? And there are models that do too much. I think the easiest way I always explain it is like the cleaning lady analogy, right? If you have a cleaning lady come to your house and she doesn't clean some spot and it's like dirt on the ground, that's bad, obviously. She didn't do enough. But she can also do too much and like hide your clothes and move stuff around, and you come back, it's like, where is everything? So this is basically what Claude 3.7 Sonnet does.
Yeah.
It does too much. GPT 4.5 is perfect. It always does what you expect it to, even though on some benchmarks it's not as good. Even though from my experience, if there's a complex error, I switch to Sonnet 3.7 thinking. On like 90% of things, it's like amazing. So with YOLO mode, you need a model that you can trust, that it will do actually what you want it to do, nothing less or nothing more.
So what do you think about OpenAI's transition to those combined models where the model can think and also choose not to think at the same time?
I think it's the right move. Like there's been so many gains with reasoning, obviously, right? So I think not having any reasoning will be losing out on those advanced situations, but also you need the reasoning to be intelligent. I think DeepSeek R1 doesn't have that. DeepSeek R1 always thinks for roughly 30 seconds, sometimes a bit more. But if you, for example, use Claude 3.7 Sonnet thinking, sometimes it thinks for like 2 seconds if it's a simple prompt. Sometimes it does 30. It adapts based on what it needs to do. So that's like, I think, the ideal. That's where it is going to be headed, where you have a model that can do the thinking if needed or can quickly answer, right? Like if I ask you what's your name, you don't have to think about it. But if I ask you something more complex and you need to like, do I remember? That's the same thing.
Yeah, so it seems like this is the first time in history that other competitors like Anthropic are not breathing down OpenAI's back. Like right now, it seems like this was the first feature that Anthropic has released first before OpenAI. This, combined model that can both think and choose not to think, depending on the situation. So do you think OpenAI still has a moat, and who do you think is going to win in a race to AGI?
Actually, I think it's going to be between Google DeepMind and XAI.
No way.
Yes. And the reason I break it down into the fundamental first principles, right? Shout out Elon, is you have talent, you have capital, which is also compute, right? Then you have data, and then it's like the infrastructure actually using that, right?
Mm-hmm.
XAI has Twitter access, which is a lot of data. If Elon wants to, he can use Tesla footage cameras, it's plenty of data. Google has the best data out of everybody. Google search indexed the entire web, YouTube, and then also some like private Google Docs, Google Drive, but that's probably off limits. So Google is winning in the data game for sure. Talent, Google has some of the best people in the world. Elon can also attract the best people in the world. So I would say roughly equal, right? Money, probably roughly equal as well. Google's like 1.5, 1.6 trillion company. Elon is the richest man in the world. Probably would have to sell some shares or whatever, but it doesn't matter. And then in infrastructure, right? Google has their TPUs. A huge advantage. They can serve insanely cheap API costs. Like it's dirt cheap. Almost as cheap as DeepSeek. Like it's insane. And XAI, which the main advantage there is the speed of execution. Like that's where Elon is the best in the world by far. The last 25 years, all has been doing is solving these real life bottlenecks, right? Like the factory was overheating. They got like 25% of all of America's mobile cooling units to get there. All he's been doing with Tesla and SpaceX is solving the biggest bottleneck. So he can move the fastest. XAI was nothing a year ago. Right now, XAI has the best model in the world. I think it's going to be between Google DeepMind and XAI. That's my prediction.
Yeah, I'm honestly quite surprised how fast some of these companies were able to catch up with OpenAI, like Anthropic and XAI. However, I'm personally still bullish on OpenAI. I think, first of all, the first mover advantage plays a crucial role in AI. So because OpenAI were able to get into this first, because they were the first company that realized how much potential transformers had. They've been building transformers for over 5-6 years now. They've gathered significant amount of experience and internal data that other companies will find hard to replicate. So of course there is like a ton of data on Twitter, on the internet and everything, but I think there is also this synthetic data component where I think OpenAI definitely is ahead of all other companies. Additionally, I believe that the biggest impact will come from applying these models. It's not going to be from consumer apps like ChatGPT or Grok AI on Twitter. And right now, I think OpenAI is definitely way in front of all other companies in terms of developer experience. Their API is actually like really well made for us developers. And this is evident by features like Assistance API that allows you to build agents much easier out of the box. Like you have enterprise level RAG there, you have code interpreter, which is something I haven't seen in any other companies. And overall, I really like how attentive they are to the developers on their forum. Like you can add a comment on their forum and it typically gets fixed in like 2-3 days.
So you don't think they're losing a moat?
I think they are finding it harder to catch up with other companies right now. I think they are losing the moat, but I think they're still ahead of everyone. I'm just not sure entirely how far they are. I think they definitely like lost some of that advantage over the last couple of years just because I think they made their own mistakes. They lost some talent. They also were too slow with the releases, but I do think that they're still ahead.
Okay, interesting. We'll see. I mean, time will tell, you know. Okay, so can you tell us more about your AI startup and like what stage is at? How many people do you have? What are the next big releases that are coming up?
Yeah, so we have been scaling significantly. Now on the startup team, we have around 6 people. So
Nice.
before we had only 3 people full time on this product. Now we're scaling the SaaS team as well. Our agents as a service team is much bigger. It's around, let's say, 12, 14 more people, and it's also growing significantly as well. But yeah, so we're ramping up the development. And the next big feature that we're going to release is first, we're going to release a free pricing plan. So right now it's only like $79 a month. But then it will also have a $0 a month pricing where you can try to create a few agents, integrate them into a few integrations, see if it works for you, and then upgrade if needed. But the feature,
that would be crazy. If someone started on a free plan, made their AI agent, made money with it, and with that was able to like, you know, upgrade and continue building.
Yeah, exactly. That's the goal. It's like now the product is a lot more stable. So now you need like also less experience to use it. We've built a few cool features just recently. For example, we released AI prompts feature, which is pretty cool. Like it allows you to generate prompts with the reasoning model. So like you add a prompt and with the reasoning model, it generates like system instructions using our standard template. Works really well actually. And then the feature that I'm most excited about is GitHub app deployment feature. So we're currently setting up Kubernetes, which is like a deployment system on our Google Cloud that will allow you then to instantly deploy your agents built with our framework from GitHub. So if you already have some agents that you've built with our framework, in the future, you'll be able to just connect the GitHub app, click one button, and it will instantly get deployed to our SaaS product. And then you can integrate it anywhere where you want to use it, like WhatsApp, Slack, and other integrations that we support.
Sometimes that's almost the harder part, right? Like so many people have built some AI agent in Python and it's in their computer, but they don't know how to take it to the next step. So I think if you did that where people just literally connect their GitHub and it can be deployed through your platform, that could like unlock so many of those dormant agents that are currently on one computer offline that maybe would be valuable to thousands of other people.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad that you recognize this. This is the exact reason why I decided to prioritize this feature next, is because I saw that our framework has like 1,000 forks on GitHub. It's like almost a third of the stars, right? So people have really built a lot of agents with this framework. But then, as you said, it's actually much harder to deploy them. This is also why we started this product in the first place. When we started our agents as a service subscription, it would take us, like 2-3 days to build an agent, but then it would take us another 3 days to deploy it. And the deployment work is actually a lot more tedious. It's not as fun. It's working with those, publicly available APIs like Slack, Zapier, WhatsApp, whatever. And just Yeah, basically designing backend systems. It's not even like agent development at all. So that's the problem that we're trying to solve. We're trying to allow developers to focus on what matters most, actually building AI agents rather than deploying them, at least at this stage of the product.
Yeah, because even if you have the most revolutionary idea for AI agent, right? Even if you manage to build it and it works well on your computer, there's so much other work that it takes to deploy it and turn it into SaaS or sell it to as an agency. It doesn't matter. But people don't realize that extra work, right? They only want to do the fun part, but then when it comes to like payment processing, right? Like, they have to use the merchant of service. They have to have authentication without any security vulnerabilities like I had in the early days. So there's like a lot of things that are not sexy that come with building AI agents or AI startups that people don't just see. And then when they try it, they'll quit at the first step.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what we're trying to solve. We'll essentially handle everything for you, from payments to deployments to integrating it to merchant on service or whatever it's called.
Merchant of record, yeah.
Merchant of record and so on.
Yeah, so I mean, this could be like, do you have any like timeline for that feature, for GitHub's feature?
Yeah, so we're planning to release it by the end of Q1. We'll probably have like a beta on February, on like the on the second week of March.
And the free plan?
Yeah, it will be available on the free plan. The free plan itself is coming out next week.
Nice. This, I think, is the biggest disconnect between interest in AI agents and people recognizing it's going to change the world and the results actually, where it's been much slower, right?
Yeah.
Like all of us probably at the start of 2024 be like, AI agents, it's obvious, right?
Yeah.
But now when it starts 2025, it's probably like a lot less businesses adopted them because it's not that easy. So I think your platform could actually be that like connector.
Yeah, exactly. We are planning to become the biggest platform on the application layer for these large language models. So that's like the layer where you actually get to apply those large language models. And in my opinion, this is the most fun part of the whole AI development process to be in.
And do you only support OpenAI models?
For now, yes, but in the future, we will, of course, support other models as well, like Anthropic, any open source models. We are planning to do this in around Q2. It's not a priority for us right now because, again, we didn't have a single client so far who would have a problem using OpenAI's models.
They care about the results, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
People don't care about AI or what AI agent, AI model use. They care about what it does for their business.
Yeah, exactly. In my opinion, OpenAI is still the best for building agents. And if you can provide value to a client with an OpenAI model, then it doesn't matter. In case if they have like any data privacy concerns, we simply use Azure OpenAI, which is also pretty easy to set up. And it's also like significantly easier than open source models. Like if you want to deploy an open source model, it takes us another 3-4 days for us.
It's expensive as well.
Yeah, and it's also a lot more expensive. So with OpenAI, like you only pay for tokens, but when you deploy an open source model, you also pay for the idle time as well.
Yeah, it needs to run. Otherwise, there's a cold start. It's terrible. People don't realize this, People want open source model for like, oh, it's locally, right? Like it's running locally. Nobody has access to it, right? Yeah. But it's not that simple. Like people don't realize how easy it is to do an API call, whether it's OpenAI or Anthropic. It's so easy, and they've done so much of the work for you. Where if you want to deploy your own model, right? Look, you can download any model from Hugging Face, but like, good luck deploying that at a reasonable cost.
Yeah.
Even like a 70 billion model costs multiple dollars per day, probably tens of dollars per day to run.
On a single instance.
On a single instance.
Yeah.
And you have to run it always.
Yeah, you have to run it always. And as soon as you have like multiple users using the app at the same time, there are going to be like some concurrency issues, delays, stuff like that.
Yeah, and you don't have optimized inference at all. Like there's tons of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Some companies are trying to solve this. Have you deployed any open source models yourself or no?
No. It's just too expensive and too difficult, and the models are worse.
Yeah.
Like there are hosting companies like Together AI that host basically all the open source models. So they do the hard work, and you can just use Together AI to get DeepSeek
So
R1.
Together AI is like what I would do if you want to use an open source model.
Yeah, for sure. That's what we did when we wanted to make sure that the DeepSeek is not in China, EU, or USA. So Together AI is like all the open source models, I think, and it's like so easy to switch between them. Pretty good company.
Yeah.
So, okay, there's a trend where more and more of the AI labs, such as OpenAI and Anthropic, are releasing their own AI agents. This is a very recent trend that we've seen over the last 3 months, probably, starting with Deep Research, then Operator, now Claude Code from Anthropic.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this trend?
Well, a lot of people have asked me if this is going to make AI agent developers obsolete. So I guess this is what I really want to talk about, is that by releasing these models, OpenAI is actually making it easier for AI agent developers to build agents. These agents, they still have to be fine-tuned on internal business processes. So if you want to use an operator agent like for your personal tasks, of course it does work well. Like you can tell it right now to go ahead and like book a movie ticket for you, and it's probably going to do it flawlessly. But when you have more complicated processes that need to be performed in a specific way, this is where you need to train these agents. You at least need to add like your own custom prompt to this agent, right? And you need to trigger it based on certain conditions. So this is where AI agent developers actually come in. Like business owners still wouldn't be able to take these agents off the shelf and then simply put them into their own business. You will have to always train these agents. You have to provide them with the process, with the necessary steps that it needs to perform. And then you also need to ensure that it performs this process consistently. So by releasing these agents, I think OpenAI has actually opened up more opportunities for AI agent developers, because now when labs like OpenAI are actively releasing their own agents, business owners simply can't ignore anymore this huge opportunity.
And as you said, like that's one of the first steps you do, right? When you work with a new business, is go there and like see which processes are ideal for the automation.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the business owner themselves, if they don't have deep AI expertise, they don't really know what's the best thing to do. Like they might say something that's like way too complex, or there is something that's way better. So this is like half of the work is like recognizing this process is ideal for AI agent automation. So yeah, I agree with that for sure.
Yeah, and the groundbreaking part about operator agent, I think both of these agents are quite groundbreaking. Like some of the insights that I've gotten with deep research were actually like really unique, novel insights. So they were like really like valuable new information that you couldn't find in any of the sources alone. So that's like the groundbreaking thing about using reasoning models with your own data. So deep research, it doesn't just output like what it finds on the internet. It actually like finds patterns between all of the different sources that it scraped, and then it generates like new unique insights. Like I was actually astonished by some of the insights that it provided to me, and they didn't even have like some paragraphs that it outputted. They didn't even have like any sources. Like the model actually synthesized that information. And the same goes for the operator agent. The operator agent has also been trained to think after every single action. And that is really transformative because of the autonomy. Like in my other video, I showed how the operator agent was able to set up a client portal for us, which is one of the tasks that we struggled to automate for a while because Notion doesn't have all of the necessary APIs for that. And at one step, it actually, like I just literally provided like one step incorrectly, and it then corrected itself during the process. So it saw like that the automation like errored out when it was trying to set it up, and then it corrected itself accordingly and finished the process literally by itself. So this is like, again, the groundbreaking thing. Like using the browser is not a new thing. There's robotic process automation where like you can use a browser like with a special like Python library, and it just like, performs a set of actions step by step. But then the problem is like whenever something goes wrong, it instantly fails. When the operator agent can then see an error and correct itself accordingly and actually finalize the process despite these issues.
I think a lot of that magic you just described in deep research is because it uses the full O3.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize this. It's not O3 mini, it's the full O3. And that's
exactly.
the only place where you can use it right now. So as you said, like it can connect the dots together in a way that other models cannot, because right now O3 is the best model in the world. It's not available fully, right? You can use it in API or in ChatGPT, but in deep research you can. So that's why I think deep research is so strong at all benchmarks, that's so strong and so useful, is because it's a combination of scraping like 20, 30 sources and then having the best AI reasoning model go through it after each step. It's like, okay, Arseny asked this. We have a bunch of info in terms of this, but like this side of the prompt is still missing. Let's target it here.
Yeah, exactly. And it also thinks after every single step. That's really powerful. I can't wait until these models are fixed in API. Right now, there is an issue with these models in the API, by the way. They don't work as well with function calling. So reasoning models right now, that's why we still didn't add the O3 mini and the O1 models into our SaaS product, You can use them if you want to, but we didn't like add this option in like a selector component. So the reason is because these models, they still hallucinate on function calls.
Yeah.
But when this issue is fixed, it's going to be incredibly powerful because the agent doesn't just perform an action. Like what happens often with like standard GPT models is that like they perform the actions, they do something, and then they immediately output the result, even if all of the requirements aren't satisfied yet. While the reasoning models, they can actually think after they perform the action, then they can compare the results to the initial requirements, see if they need to do something else, do that thing if needed, and only then output the results. So the reasoning models can actually run for much longer. This is what also we have seen in the O1 in the deep research and operator agents. These agents have been trained to run for like 20, 30 minutes. So in the future, you'll be able to create your own agents that also run for 20, 30 minutes for incredibly complex tasks. And then maybe by the end of this year, even agents that run for days.
By the way, if you are a business owner or someone who likes to be super productive, you have to try Vectal. For example, let's say you're working on this task right here. You can use the chat agent to say, help me get started on the ML job applications task. Update the context with some instructions, and it goes to our AI agent. So let's see, now clicking to this task and I have detailed step-by-step instructions how to actually complete this task. Another thing it can do is reorganize your tasks, right? Today, I wanna focus on personal tasks more, reorganize my list. So as you can see, it updated 2 tasks and both personal tasks were moved to the top. Now let's say you're new to Vectal and you have a clean slate. So I'm gonna do archive all tasks to simulate the experience of a new Vectal user. And as you can see, our AI agents are insanely fast, it's crazy. So I'm gonna say, add 4 more tasks related to my marketing company and scaling that. And okay, interesting. So now it actually calls Perplexity Pro because it identified, okay, this is a good time to do a web search, right? And inside of Vectal, Perplexity Pro is just one of things you get. So the free plan is already pretty decent. You get unlimited tasks, unlimited nodes, Perplexity web search, which Perplexity Pro is already $20 a month subscription. You get that in Vectal for free. Limited AI agent access, obviously for the free plan. Limited access to Infinite Thinking, which by the way, we're still rolling out Infinite Thinking 2.0 to all users. Currently, it's only for Vectal Pro users. And you get Ultra Search, which is powered by Perplexity Deep Research. So, as you can see, the Perplexity search is done. It does the web search and then it created the tasks based on the Perplexity Pro findings. But let's say you want to go deeper, right? Well, that's where Ultra Search comes into play. Let's say you want to learn something about the new AI model. Tell me everything I need to know about Gemma 3. This is a new AI model that just came out from Google, and there's no way it's in the training data of the LLMs, right? That's where Ultra Search comes into play. This is the next level of the concept of deep research. Why? Because it's powered by Perplexity Deep Research, which again, you have to pay $20 a month to get. But on top of that, our Vectal AI agents consider all of your active tasks as well as your user context, which enhances the web results. That way you get insights, information you cannot get anywhere else. Now with the Vectal Pro plan, you get everything in the free plan. You also get GPT 4.5, which is a very expensive model and most AI tools don't even offer it, but we do. You get unlimited Claude 3.7 Sonnet, really unlimited. 20 times more Infinite Thinking and also early access to Infinite Thinking 2.0. 10x more Ultra Search, unlimited O3 Mini. So right now, as you can see, we have the reasoning button and in here, you have the reasoning models. So by the way, the Ultra Search is done now, so it will give you a detailed report. I mean, this is one of the best web search tool in existence right now. But let's say you want to do reasoning, right? You can enable this. Let's say you want to do O3 Mini High, and you can say, analyze the patterns and trends in my tasks, how I can be more productive. And it will call O3 Mini High with the high reasoning effort to analyze your tasks and help you complete them. So on the Vectal Pro plan, you get unlimited O3 Mini as well as DeepSeek R1. You also get premium support on our Discord server where you can talk to me directly as well as my developers. And of course, you can cancel at any time. Plus, for the next 5 days, we're running this limited offer. If you use the code INFINITE during checkout, you will get 30% off. Again, this is only available for the next 5 days because we're celebrating 5 months since the creation of Vectal. And it has definitely never been a better time to upgrade to Vectal Pro. But if there's one thing I can guarantee you, if you move all of your tasks to Vectal, you're never gonna need another task management tool ever again. So if you're someone who likes to be super productive, someone who values his time and wants to have AI agents working on his tasks autonomously, just go to vectal.ai and sign up. One thing also that they need to change is they need to give us the reasoning tokens. in the API, they don't show it, right? So I want to use O3 Mini as currently the main reasoning model because I think it's better than DeepSeek R1. The issue is that people love to see the tokens. They love to see the model reasoning through it. O3 Mini is very fast, but it takes like, 5, 6, 7 seconds to go through the reasoning, and then it only gives the response part of the stream.
So like the user doesn't get immediate feedback?
Yeah, the user doesn't see how the model thinks. And like for the average person, that's magical. This is a big reason why DeepSeek R1 exploded.
Yeah, true.
Think about the average person, right? They tried ChatGPT when it first went out. It was like GPT 3.5. And now they try DeepSeek R1. It's a huge jump from GPT 3.5 to DeepSeek R1. And then they see the reasoning, and for like the average people doesn't know like the benchmarks, how it works, like reinforcement learning. All they see is like, oh, this cute little model thinks about my problem, and they love that. The average person loves that. So OpenAI needs to step their game up.
Yeah, I think that's one of the mistakes that OpenAI has done, is just trying to be too secretive on things like where they really didn't have to be so secretive. Like the reason I believe they didn't release the reasoning tokens is that so other companies like DeepSeek wouldn't be able to train their own models on these reasoning tokens.
Yeah, but they were infiltrated anyway.
Exactly.
Like Chinese girlfriends.
They were still able to achieve that despite that OpenAI didn't release that. So it was I think a very big mistake by OpenAI.
Yeah, Sam should have recognized that half of his employees have a Chinese girlfriend. It's like, what's up with that, And then DeepSeek has all the info about the training. It's like, I guess it's easy to steal it.
Right. Okay, so which AI model, in your opinion, is the least uncensored right now?
People don't understand this. They think it's Grok, right? Because Elon has been doing a good job, like promoting it as the least censored model. But from my testing, sometimes Grok is like super woke. Sometimes like there has been controversy on Twitter of someone like giving the instruction to manufacture NFRAGs or some stuff. But it's very random, this model. Sometimes it will give you the most woke possible biased response. Sometimes it's not biased. But then GPT 4.5, I think it's a lot more predictable in what we'll say. So right now it's hard to say. I would say probably Grok if you are good at prompting. Because with Grok, you can get there in like 10 prompts. But for the average person, they will not take 10 prompts to get there. For a single response, it might be GPT 4.5. Because it doesn't hallucinate as much. And unless your prompt is completely deranged, it's going to answer it honestly.
I see. So what's your stance on regulating AI agents?
Yeah, so I don't think you can really regulate AI agents. I mean, the EU is trying, but it's a bad idea. You're just going to kill the industry completely. And it's so funny because right now, for example, my editor, shout out, he's in the EU. So he gets the AI updates later than me. So on some videos, he cannot literally help me without a VPN because EU of the old regulations, right? So if someone wants to regulate AI agents, like what is that? What does that mean? There's plenty of open source projects out there, right? You cannot regulate code and math. It's a ridiculous idea, but somehow, the EU bureaucrats have convinced themselves that they need to regulate AI, which I think is going to kill the innovation in Europe. I mean, the reason me and you are in Dubai and not in Europe is partly because of the high taxes, regulation, difficult environment to do business, stuff like that. We should be in Europe, but we're in Dubai.
Yeah, exactly. For me, it's been definitely one of the biggest factors to move to Dubai. Just absence of taxes, less regulation.
But that's just the beginning. Like, people see the taxes, but it's more things. I feel like Dubai wants you to succeed. Exactly, Europe wants you to pay as much taxes as possible. In Dubai, safe. Super low taxes, right? Tons of other entrepreneurs. Services available everywhere. In Europe, if you have a cleaner, if you have a chef, you seem as elitist. Like, what are you doing? Why you have a chef? Like, you think you're better than us? In Dubai, it's like normal. Of course you have that. Your time is more valuable. You have a business to run, right? You're not going to be cleaning your apartment. This is what I mean. It's not just one thing. It's not just taxes. That's like level one. For me, it's the connections. That's much more valuable. Having people who are more successful than you, having people who are just as ambitious, right? In Czech Republic, where I come from, in a small village, there's nobody that's ambitious. There's nobody that's successful. And the last thing, I think people watching this, like if you are the most successful person in your small town, in your environment, in your office, or in the room, you should move. Because you need to make sure that your ambition keeps increasing.
Yeah, I actually wish I moved to Dubai earlier and just lived like somewhere in a cheaper place. Just again, because of the connections that I was able to gain here with you and with other people in AI.
I mean, for me, like you gave me so much good advice when it comes to hiring.
Yeah.
Like instead of doing a 2-month period, do a 2-week, and like really be strict on how to choose the developers. or like helping me like scrape that list, right? So like all of that stuff you only learn by talking to people who've done it. And those people are usually in Dubai. Or at least, even if they don't live here, they're here at least once or twice a year. So this is why like the value of this place is not just in the taxes. All of the stuff. And also like if you are a millionaire and you make a bunch of money, the last thing you want to worry about is getting stabbed in the streets. And somehow the geniuses running Europe have thought like that's the best strategy. Let's import the most dangerous people from the world and put them into the biggest cities. And like, oh, the crime is up. Oh, I wonder why that is.
Interesting. Yeah, I haven't been to Europe for a while, but I did live in the United States. Not a lot of people know that I lived in the United States for 5 years. And personally, I prefer Dubai in almost every single criteria. But what do you think? Like, if you had a chance to move to San Francisco and build your startup there, would you take it or no?
I might do it in the future. Depending if I need to like really get the best of the best talent. Those people are in United States. But other than that, like, why? You know, so much crime, drugs, like, I don't want to deal with that. You know, high taxes, like California is woke as, yeah, like there is so many reasons why to not do that. But again, the talent is unmatched in the USA. And I'm bullish on the USA for the next 4 years at least. So I might move to USA in the next 2 years, might not, we'll see.
I know. I think actually talent is not like a big reason to move to San Francisco anymore.
But like an in-person talent. You can really build like a cracked in-person team.
Exactly. Like, I hire people sometimes from United States, not often, but we have a couple of people working from United States. Hasn't been like a deal breaker for us. You know, if the person is in the United States, we can still work with them.
But then again, it's not the same. Like you were saying, you know, last time that it's like difficult to get people on remote to do more than 40 hours a week. And now Sergey Brin, you know, the co-founder of Google, is demanding 60 hours a week from everybody at DeepMind. So that's only possible in person.
When you say like 60 hours, like a lot of people say, you know, I work 60 hours, I work 80 hours.
Yeah, I'm talking about people at DeepMind.
Yeah, it's like they say they work 60 hours, but I'm telling you, like if they actually timed how much time they spend at their computers, it would be less than 40.
Yeah, but there is that in-person energy of like the brainstorming and like everybody's pushing each other, right? Let's say you have like a bad day, you slept 3 hours. If you go into that environment where everybody's like focused, like AGI is near, people have urgency, it's so huge. And this is another thing, like how to be successful as an entrepreneur. You need to have that urgency. And if you are in a small town, Europe, USA, doesn't matter, where nothing is happening, you don't have urgency. But if you go to a big city, right, whether it's Dubai, Vegas, New York, doesn't matter, you will see people in, you know, expensive cars. You will see like buildings being built so fast. You will see new businesses appearing left and right. You will notice like the world is advancing. Yeah. And same with Asia, you know, some of these Chinese cities or, you know, Singapore, Taiwan, it is like progressing so fast. Europe is literally falling behind. And it's because of all the bureaucrats and all the regulation. Like they ruined the continent.
Yeah, I'm also heavily against regulation. I think regulation only stops the progress. And I think the way they're regulating AI is just completely out of hand. Like we shouldn't be regulating the flops or like the computational power of these models. And especially we shouldn't be keeping the developers accountable. Like there was a discussion, luckily this bill has been vetoed in California, but there was a discussion about keeping the developer accountable for the usage of their large language models, even if the model was later fine-tuned or modified, which is just unspeakable. And in regards to remote work, I do think that it's possible to create this environment remote. I do agree that it's harder, where you know you like have room to brainstorm with people, to talk with them, but I think it's possible. So how we are going to be solving this, I am planning to keep my team solely remote for the next 5 years, and we are just going to be doing like offsites. We're planning to like rent a villa somewhere and just go there.
I think that's like the middle ground, right? Yeah. Like, you know, a few times a year you do like this really intense sprint, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, where you just gather together in person and you lock in and you pull like really hard for that short period. That's the way to do it, honestly.
I think like brainstorming is really valuable, but you also need time to execute. Like you need to brainstorm. Like after you brainstormed like stuff, you have to execute, and it's most likely going to take like 3 months or more. So like if we do this like every quarter or every half a year, I think this makes a lot of sense.
But if let's say, you know, for something like, let's say, hardware company needs to be in person, right? So where would you do that? I think that's why I'm tempting to go into USA, because it's the most business friendly country in the world. You can say like Dubai has low taxes and stuff, but like there is also some regulations, right? And it's also hard to kind of import people in. And the tricky part is that their lifestyle needs to be high enough. You need to pay them high enough so they can survive in the city, right? Yeah, you can live like an hour away from the city center, but like nobody wants to do that, right? So that is the tricky part about Dubai, is like you need to have pretty high level people. And also when, this is what my friends told me that have lived here for 20 years, is that when you import people here, they start to like lower their work ethic. Because this city is such a good lifestyle, you know? This is a lifestyle optimization city. I think USA is like growth optimization. And if you think about it, like most of the stuff is invented in the USA and then imported in the rest of the world.
Right now it is. I think it might change in the future, to be honest. But right now it certainly is. I think the only reason to go to the United States and why all of this stuff is made in the United States right now is because of the funding. Right now, all of the capital is accumulated in the United States, the richest country in the world. So you can see like, startups raising millions, tens of millions of dollars, literally ridiculous. Just from a PowerPoint.
Pre-idea, pre-product, pre-revenue.
Yeah, to me, this is just ridiculous. But
yeah, oh my God, don't get me started on the San Francisco entrepreneurs. Like these guys are so ridiculous, it's crazy. Like they raise 2 million, spend 1.8 on domain. It's like, bro, what is happening here? What is happening? Like these guys are not real business entrepreneurs at all.
Yeah, the problem is that they never actually ran a profitable business before they founded the company. No. Some founders, of course, did if they built a previously successful startup, but a lot of them are just building businesses just from an idea. And I think that's the biggest problem, is that they're just building startup from an idea without really having a clear direction in mind, without having clear processes to scale. And so when they start to build such a company, you just accumulate like more and more people and they don't know what to do.
Yeah, and also a lot of founders, they solve every problem by hiring a person.
Yeah.
Like there's a new problem, let's just hire somebody, right? And then you get like those bloated companies where like half the people don't do anything. Maybe don't start with hiring a person, right? Sometimes you do need to hire, but sometimes that's not the issue. Maybe you don't have the playbook. Maybe it's inefficient. Yeah. Maybe you guys are making some obvious mistake, right? So like if you have infinite funding, if you're like a 19-year-old kid and they give you 5 mil, of course you're going to solve every problem by hiring someone for 20K a month. It's like, of course.
Yeah, you can. I personally also start from playbooks. I just build a playbook first. I think about like how we perform this process. I create a playbook, and then typically I give it to someone who already works at our company. So it's always completely fine to have generalists at the beginning when you're just building your team, people who perform, multiple roles at the same time. And then only when you see that the person is just spending way too much time on like a single process or on a single function, then you hire someone else and just pass down the playbooks.
Yeah. But I think the San Francisco strategy of hiring a bunch of money, and then once you're running out, you just do another round, you pivot, you announce a new thing, like now we're building this, blah, blah, blah. And it's like you hire more money.
Yeah, I've seen like so many startups. Actually, even one of my previous clients raised like $20 million for like a customer support agent startup. And it's so funny because it's literally a script on top of ChatGPT, right? I mean, sure, like everything is like a script on top of something else, like in SaaS. Like typically, you always like combine different APIs together in any SaaS, right? You either like just build it yourself, but in the beginning, it's completely fine to like use somebody else's API. And OpenAI is just like another API out there. So all SaaS products are just like a bunch of APIs connected together with like a database. And in my opinion, like it doesn't take $20 million to connect these APIs. Like the cost of software has been consistently going down over the last couple decades.
Yeah.
Of course, there are more like things that you need to do, like marketing you can spend a lot of money on. But still, in my opinion, I think this is just like a total overkill. I have no idea like where you could spend that money, because the demo with which that client raised 20 million was actually built by our team. And it took us like 2 weeks, hands down.
I think the San Francisco VCs are just retarded. Like, why don't you take someone who has proven the product market fit and infuse money there? They're just throwing money at the like random stuff. I don't know. I think like this bubble has to burst.
Yeah, that's what I'm also thinking about. It's like, it feels like a bubble, but I don't know like how exactly it's going to burst. Like, I don't know like what has to happen for this bubble to burst. Is it just competition or is it something else?
Yeah, I think it's going to be competition from the rest of the world.
Yeah, I think so too. It's because it's just so easy to like replicate all of these like customer support startups. Like you'll be able to build like the exact same startup on our platform soon. So like, I'm not sure how they're going to compete.
Yeah, there's going to be some hungry kid from Moldova or whatever, it's like 14-year-old that just decides to build it and like posts it on Twitter, it gets viral. And if there's like YC-backed startup that raised like 10 mil and then this kid builds it better, it's not going to look so good, you know?
Yeah, I think it's all about just having a very niche expertise about your target customer, about the problem that they want to solve. And I think this is just going to be the winning strategy. Like some of the most successful startups I've seen in our agency were those where like I could not have even like imagined that this problem existed. Like, you know, signing contracts for like professional athletes, like an agent for that. We had like a request for that once. And I just like had no idea like how many details there are in those professional contracts, how many things can go wrong. And if you have that expertise, that instantly gives you a competitive advantage.
Who do you trust more, Sam Altman or Elon Musk?
Good question. I think honestly, they're pretty much like on the same level. For me, I don't think I trust neither of them too much. Sam Altman, I used to trust a lot more, I'd say a year ago, but do think he made some wrong decisions recently with, you know, just not open sourcing stuff enough, not being entirely open. They're still like really open actually. Like if you read their reports, recently they've been getting a bit more open about
the system
stuff.
cars.
Yeah, the
like
system
they really
cars.
like revealed stuff where they didn't look good.
Yeah, exactly. That's what actually surprised me on the GPT 4.5 release. They didn't hide that the model wasn't perfect at all. Like they trained it for like a tremendous amount of money and still mentioned that, you know, it's not perfect. More work is needed to remove all hallucinations and everything. So thanks for that. But yeah, it's really hard to connect with those CEOs right now. I feel like they're just kind of like, they're just like too far away from us. I wish some of them had YouTube channels. I wish some of them actually like shared more about their lives. That would help me to trust them more.
So you've moved to Dubai recently. What has been the hardest part about this?
Honestly, the move to Dubai was really smooth. I really liked how they set everything up here. Like easier for you to set up a company and then also get this residence permit. Everything was like incredibly efficient. Took me literally like 2 weeks outside of Dubai and 2 weeks inside of Dubai. And then now I'm a resident here. I didn't like ever even stay in a line or anything when I was getting my residence permit. So it was all really, really smooth. And the hardest part was probably just making the decision, just jumping into it, because, you know, the quality of life is higher here, but with that obviously comes a higher cost of life. So for me, it was like this decision, just like, you know, being confident that I can afford that. And I think it actually even helped me like to move to Dubai to a slightly more expensive place that I could afford, because then it actually propelled me forward. It made me work even harder.
It's, you know, like trying to lift more weight than you do usually at the gym.
Yeah.
You push yourself a bit more. Obviously, you shouldn't go bankrupt and spend 90% of your income on the apartment, but like if you usually spend 10 to 20% of your income, going for something that's 30%, you know, it's like a bit uncomfortable. But then again, if it's in a location where you can meet successful people and you can get a return on that location or less taxes, right? This is one thing. Like technically the apartment is free because we pay less tax, right? Here. So you have to think about it that way as well. But yeah, I absolutely agree. Like if someone is watching this from Europe or somewhere and they're considering moving to Dubai and they're like, the cost is the last thing, just take the leap, right? Like you don't have to live like with the best view, but still you can live in a good location for like 3K a month.
Mm-hmm.
And it's worth it. You meet
what
so many
about
people.
you? What was it for you?
I mean, yeah, for me, it's funny because in my head, I was, again, as you said, I was here for like 4 years. You know, like watching all those videos of people living here, stuff like that. In my head, I moved here and it didn't feel like anything. Because I just felt like I deserved it forever, you know? It's like that UFC fighters that when they train for 10 years and they win the title and they feel like they deserve it because they've seen it so many times. But like I moved here and just didn't feel anything. Because I've already wanted to do it for the longest time. So yeah, I mean, it has been great, and especially the connections. Like the taxes, like, yeah, it's nice and all, but like meeting the people, again, like I come from a 500-person village.
Yeah.
So this is, for me, it's like an insane jump to be like a 3.7 million city with like tons of entrepreneurs, tons of people who are serious. Yeah.
You should move to Marina though.
Maybe I'll move to Marina.
Next year.
Yeah, next year. I mean, see, now it's going to be summer. So in the summer, Dubai is not really livable, I think. That's the biggest disadvantage, is the weather. Yeah, they're going to solve the weather and they need to solve the air quality issues and the
quality
traffic.
as well, yeah.
Yeah, that needs to be solved. All right, bro. So how many AI girlfriends do you have?
Let me count. No, I'm kidding. I don't have any.
Okay, but do you think it's cheating if you, okay, let's say you have a real girlfriend. Do you think it's cheating to have an AI girlfriend?
I guess it depends on your feelings.
Okay.
Like if you have feelings for an AI girlfriend,
That's crazy.
then I guess maybe it could be considered cheating.
No, actually, I think this is actually more dangerous towards the women. Because everybody focuses on the men, but the amount of women that use character.ai, you would be surprised, man.
Really?
Yes, because on character.ai, you can get it, do like these dark romance novels, that type of style. There's been some stats where women are way more likely to use AI for romantic reasons than men.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is that?
I guess they want that attachment. They want like someone chatting to them. Men want like visual stuff. So I think like when it comes to like physical sex bots, obviously men will be the customer there. But when it comes to the AI chatbots, it has been the women. Very interesting.
So where do you think this could evolve in the future?
I mean, obviously it has some dark potential, outcomes, like the birth rates getting even worse. It's like people are not thinking about the things that actually matter, right?
Yeah.
And birth rates are gonna destroy the civilization. I mean, South Korea is like in 2 or 3 generations gonna be like almost gone. And people are not talking about it, people don't realize about it. All of the developed nations, right, Europe, USA, whatever, the birth rates are below replacement. It's 2.1 kids per woman. And all of the developed countries are like 1.3, 1.4. South Korea is like with 0.7, that's like completely gone, right? So yeah, I think this could even make this issue worse, where people have those connections with an AI chatbot, but then don't have actual kids, right? Because if those needs are met by character.ai or by a sex bot, that could be really destructive to population. So, I mean, yeah, we will have more humanoid robots, but we will most likely not have more humans.
Yeah, I think how this could evolve is when we have virtual reality. This could go really bad or really wrong. Yeah. Like, I think the next iteration of Apple Vision Pro is going to be actually really good. The first one has recently already improved a lot. Like, they now have the software improved like significantly. You have like the insane screen. I was actually considering of buying it. I didn't buy this one, but I think I'm going to buy the next one. And then when we have those AI girlfriends in virtual reality.
Oh, that's GG.
Yeah.
That's game over.
that would be it.
See, but like this is something that it should be the government's responsibility, right? Like if the government, I don't know, like if you say like what should government do, it shouldn't regulate business and shouldn't stop that, but like it should ensure that the population is replacing. And I feel like no developed country does that. I mean, there's one good example in Hungary where the president gave like an incentive for women to have 4 kids. If you have 4 kids, you pay no income tax. But what other country is doing this? Nobody. So like I guess we're just dying out and nobody cares. See, one thing that I don't like about our generation of entrepreneurs, they just care about themselves and their family and they're like, having a Lambo. But what's beyond that, Like you can make like $100 million, but like if Europe, like the place we come from, is going to shit, what's that about,
Okay, let me play a devil's advocate.
Okay.
So if we have like AGI bots walking all around the earth, and if we have, AI that can perform most human jobs, if not all, why do we need so many people?
I mean, yeah, you don't need them for work. But I think right now, given the current architecture, you need them for the creative ideas. I mean, again, it depends how many years in the future we're talking, right? But like right now, the LLMs are not even close to being like discovering science and stuff like that. Novel ideas, novel art and stuff like that. So I think that will be needed. And I think it's actually going to be a symbiosis. Everybody thinks like Terminator versus human, right? But there's going to be more and more like in between.
Yeah.
Right now, all of us have like a supercomputer in our pocket, right? But AI glasses are the next thing. You're going to have AI glasses perfectly look at like normal glasses that can see what you see, hear what you hear. They can play sounds almost as good as a headphone. You can just walk down the street and say like, oh, what's on my calendar again? Oh, you have a podcast in 2 hours. Oh, okay. What's on my task list? Oh, you have these 3 tasks. And this is like a supernatural thing. And it's also like, what was that name of that business I walked past? Oh, here's the photo. Boom. So AI glasses are the next step. Absolutely guaranteed. Meta is the leader there for sure. I'm going to buy the next ones. Absolutely. Then I guess Neuralink is the next big jump. So I think a human with a Neuralink will outperform just a robot running a GPT-5 or whatever. So yeah, I think it's not going to be like humans now versus AI bots. Humans now are going to be more and more OP, and actually the most optimal thing is going to be a human working with AI.
Yeah. It's like those AI agent builders that build other agents. Like what I've seen so far is that, the agent builders get better, so it's easier to build agents, but the agents themselves also get more sophisticated. So they like kind of grow together, like hand in hand, which is why there's always this agent developer who needs to be in the middle and who needs to actually combine both together.
And this is also just for the models, right? Like both of us have a SaaS product, right? Anytime a new model comes, it instantly gets better. And we didn't do any work, but our
Yeah.
product gets better. So this is like another power of choosing the right niche to be in, the right industry, is that I don't know. I don't understand how people work in any other industry. Like in AI, it just there's so much happening at any given week. It's
Yeah.
like it's hard to not be productive.
Yeah, I think AI is hands down the most fun industry to be in ever.
Yeah.
Like there hasn't been another industry to join before that would be as much fun as AI right now, simply because new advancements are literally coming out weekly, if not daily,
Yeah.
sometimes when Anthropic and OpenAI are trying to compete. And you never know what's going to happen next. And as you said, like all of your products keep getting better as well. So we, for example, had this like agent that was hallucinating recently because we got like a task that was incredibly complex. It was like a database query agent that had to query like 270 tables, and tables had no descriptions. And then it also had to perform like some other actions to test like the software and more tools. So that agent was like always hallucinating. And then you try it with GPT 4.5 and it starts to perform reliably and consistently, which is didn't even require any work on our end. Like we just literally replaced the model and that's it.
Yeah, it's amazing. How do you think AI will impact people who do not adapt? Obviously, people watching this podcast are already pretty serious about it. You're in the top 1% of the world in terms of AI knowledge and AI interest. But I'm talking about the rest, right? The people who like ignore it almost every day. I see on Twitter like a super viral post of like AI hate, right? It's like someone saying like, oh, there should be like exclude AI toggle in every software. And I got like 300K likes, which is like 10 million views or 20 million views, right?
Really?
Yeah. AI haters, it's more popular than like using AI, being an AI hater. So I'm wondering like, what do you think is the future for those people?
I think they will have to use AI anyway. Like they will simply not have a choice because all of the products will be so tightly integrated with AI that they might not even notice that they're using AI. They're hating on AI because they saw like a few bad integrations, and that's definitely a big problem in the industry. Is that people start to integrate AI without really understanding what they're doing into their products or without testing it thoroughly first, and that does result in like completely useless integrations. I definitely have seen some useless integrations in the past. Like for example, I have this teleprompter app which is made for you to read the script off the screen, and it's not made for editing text, but for some reason the developer decided to add the write with AI feature. So it's like you don't have the way to edit text, but you can write it with AI. And I'm like, bro, like I'm not gonna use that. So that's why people, hate on AI sometimes. But as I said, like you are already using AI. Like whenever you search a product on Amazon, whenever you use even like Google, you are already using AI. So there's like in the future it's gonna be even more. So you won't even like be able to use any products, without interacting with AI.
But okay, I agree. But how it's gonna, the attitude of ignoring AI, choosing to ignore it, it's gonna impact their lives? What do you think?
I think ultimately, in the end, everyone will benefit. The humanity in general will benefit from AI, but I think there might be some unrest in between just because of AI is developing so fast that many of these people might find it hard to adapt. Like right now, even today, I see just so many jobs that are completely useless given the latest AI capabilities. And I honestly, I have no idea what these people are going to do in the future. I do hope that, we will have some like form of incentives. I think this is also like one of the big next steps for AI is that people need to be incentivized to train the models. This is what I've been thinking about lately, is that you need to be rewarded for training these models. Like the models that we use today by Anthropic and OpenAI, they're not as much a credit to those large companies as to the humanity as a whole.
The web.
Because humanity as a whole built the web. It's us who generated all this knowledge on the internet. It's all of the users who were on Reddit. It's all of the
Or maybe not
blog
Reddit.
posts. I think it was Reddit as well. Anyway, we need to have like some form of an incentive system where if you contribute something to AI, if AI has ever been trained on your content, especially if it's a copyrighted material, then you need to be rewarded whenever somebody uses an AI model and the AI model uses your content. So for this, I believe where we need to really step up our research. We need to focus on really understanding these models more rather than just building the most knowledgeable, the smartest models.
This is a really interesting idea that you recently said, that information, knowledge will be more and more valuable as work is less valuable, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I think we will still need the humans, because to write like a great essay, right? Or to come up with a new philosophy, I don't think the current model architecture can do that, especially not at like the world-class level.
Yeah, I think as these models become progressively more capable, like the implementation part will be outsourced. But the training part, this is where humans really need to come in. Humans really need to show these models what to do. And this is why I believe data will become even more valuable as we move forward. Because again, it's like the people who provide the data for training these models, they will always have some work to do, because the models are going to be automating all of the work, but it's understanding how to perform the work that humans need to really like show these models.
Yeah, I think I just solved the issue of job loss.
How?
So basically, like Ilya Sutskever said, we have but one internet. But once AI is starting to do the job of humans, is going to be to ask questions, to explore curiosity, to think, to study philosophy, to read, to write. That's going to be the job, generating more data.
Yeah, exactly. That's
and
what I
but see, the economy is growing, so there's going to be more money in total, and also humanity is shrinking, so each person is going to be richer proportionately, and products are going to get cheaper. Anyways, this is going to be more and more jobs are going to be in that data creation. You're going to pay somebody to just explore the web and like think, analyze, watch some videos, synthesize.
Yeah, that's what I think as well. Not even explore the web, but just put your insights that you've had throughout your life into a model. This is like invaluable. This is what these models haven't been trained on. Even if it's like a really simple job, like I work at a grocery store, right?
Yeah.
You still have like some insights.
Just what happens.
Yeah, just what happens, how you actually like do stuff. And you can then train AI on this process and hopefully in the future get rewarded for that as well.
So, I mean, that would be legit like either, just writing, like describing what's happening to you. So more people need to be like writers, authors.
Yeah.
Because like if you read like a long fiction book, it's insane how much detail the author goes into, right?
Yeah.
Like the smell in the air, what the light was like. And that's the level of detail people need to describe. All of the stuff that AI doesn't know. Like there is plenty of footage, for example, from Teslas on the road, but you're not going to teach a robot how to do the dishes from road footage. So all of these minute things need to be described, like chatting with the AI bots and like describing the smallest of details or the nuances.
Yeah, that's something I haven't thought about before, but I can definitely see your point that writing is going to become even more valuable in the future, because ultimately those LLMs are trained on text, right? And text is just like such a nice medium. Like in English language, you can basically describe anything, right? Even in any language, you can communicate anything. Like you can communicate whatever is happening to you right now. You can communicate like the environment. You can communicate even like the code, right? So by communicating clearly these insights, you'll be able to hopefully in the future train AI models and get incentivized for that.
I think it's going to be even one step further. Instead of writing, which most people cannot write with all 10 fingers and are insanely slow, it's going to be speaking. Having conversations, podcasts, discussions, debates, seeing like, as you said, like person might have some unique insight when they were 4 or 5 years old that comes up in like a weird political, historical discussion. The dots are connected, right? That LLM could never do because they have that insight when they were young that otherwise they would not realize. So I think, honestly, like a lot of the job will just be like this. recorded podcasts where we get a topic, let's say something that, there is not enough info on the web. We do like a bunch of research, right? We have our deep research assistant do that for us. And then we talk about it, how it relates to our lives, how it relates to the future, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And then those tokens get like qualified based on the quality, and we get compensated based on the uniqueness of that conversation.
Yeah. I still think personal experience is going to be more important though. I think personal experience is just something that nobody else has. Like you can always find stuff on web and somebody else can do that as well. But personal experience, like your own personal insights throughout your life, nobody else has these insights.
Okay, so then we are going to have our AI agent send us to like a side quest.
Not even side quests. You can literally just schedule a call with your AI agent.
No. I mean, it will send you to a real environment. See, like, we need more biology research, or like, we need more exploration of the Amazon. It will send a bunch of guys into the Amazon to like research it and then document everything they're seeing and do the stuff that AI cannot do.
I mean, AI can do this with robotics as well.
No, but it cannot do like the senses, the smell, what it brings up, like the memory. Like
I think in the future it will be. We'll be able to do it. But the insights that we have right now, I think from previous years of your life, just to get AI to that point where it can actually do like all of these things, I think this is what you need to really communicate and write down somewhere.
But then you need to extract it from those people. Like the average person isn't a writer.
Yeah. So they need to be incentivized. They need to be incentivized somehow to provide the data, provide their own insights to AI.
Yeah, but what it's going to look like? Like, what are those jobs going to look like? Just people talking about it, people documenting their life, writing biographies. Will all of us have like 10 biographies about our life?
I'm not sure entirely how this is going to look like, but I'm imagining like you could have a conversation with an agent and that agent would have like memory.
Or it will prompt you.
Yeah. It would have like memory, right? I showed in my last video how to add memory to your agent. It's quite easy. And then this agent can have a conversation with like 1,000 people who work at grocery stores. And then instantly it like knows everything about how to work at a grocery store. So it can launch a bot and just replace everyone.
See, I don't think it knows everything. Because some of that, like the people will not describe. And maybe the AI agent will ask it in the right way. But again, some of that you kind of have to be there, right? Know how the environment looks, how wide the tiles are, like the aisles are, right? Like what it looks like in the back room. There's a lot of like nuance that the AI wouldn't even think to ask.
Yeah, that's true, I guess. So in this case, I guess, we need like a more structured process where people just have to like, I don't know, maybe even like record themselves.
Yeah, so I'm telling you, like the AI agent will send us on a side quest, like go work at a grocery store for a week.
Oh, you don't have to, like if you...
And we have cameras like 360.
I think it makes sense to do that, like if you already work at a grocery store.
No,
so,
but
like,
then...
the person needs to understand how to do it before it records it.
I disagree, because if you're doing something for your entire life, you stop seeing it. Like it's the environment, right? Like your house that you grew up in, you stop seeing how it looks. But if you go into a new room, you can see, oh, this is a nice design.
I guess there is this component, but no, this is how we used to and still do in our agency. This is how we essentially extract processes from businesses. We have this like template, and it asks people to document their process first step by step, then like which systems they use, and then also to attach a Loom video where they actually perform that process. And then what we do is we, for now, train the agent manually. But in the future, I guess it could be like a combination of both manually and also with the help of other agents.
What do you think of Elon not making Grok free open source? He's been the biggest vocal guy against OpenAI, like suing them 20 times, saying they're not, closed AI, blah, blah, blah. But then when push comes to shove, Grok free is not open source.
Yeah, as I said, I don't trust Elon Musk neither. Definitely not more than Sam Altman. I definitely trust Sam Altman more if I would compare those two. But I think it shows that Elon Musk isn't really concerned about OpenAI not being open source. In fact, he wanted OpenAI to become a closed source company before as well. And all of those lawsuits that he just keeps throwing at OpenAI honestly just look funny, in my opinion. They're obviously just made to distract OpenAI from their mission.
Don't you think some of them are legit though? Like he did start the company and put all the risk and put like $50 million. And now he has nothing and Sam is going to get like $7 billion.
I guess, but why didn't he say that before? And additionally, 15 mil for him is like nothing.
50 mil.
50 mil, still nothing.
Yeah, but back in 2015 or whatever, it wasn't as rich.
I guess there is a part to these lawsuits.
But you cannot say it's nothing to him, right? Like if I steal 10K from you, I say, oh, it's nothing to him. He does not have a strong argument in court.
Yeah, that's true. So honestly, I haven't explored that topic too much. I guess we'll see what the court says in the United States. This is like what the government should be responsible for.
What about the copyright loophole? Where
The copyright-
OpenAI just
yeah,
scraped the entire web and now it's black boxed and
Yeah. So that one is actually something I thought about more. I think these lawsuits actually do make sense. And this is what I was talking about earlier. If these models have been trained on the copyrighted material, then the authors should be incentivized. They should be rewarded whenever somebody uses that model and it generates content based on that copyrighted material. It's just right now we have no way of really checking what the heck the model used in order to synthesize the content. But hopefully in the future, as we understand these models more, we'll have a way to see, which specific part of the training data it used in order to generate that message for that user. So it could be like a Spotify model where you upload your data, like where authors would actually upload their data themselves, where they would be happy to do that because they will then get incentivized and they will get some financial rewards.
It's interesting. I think it's a bit too optimistic for the near term. Maybe in the long-term future, yeah. But think about the incentives. The companies would have to get destroyed in courts for them to have that incentive. But right now, they can just deploy crawlers everywhere and scrape everything. See, setting that up is so difficult. Obviously, it also costs them money if they set that up. OpenAI is already bleeding money like crazy. So imagine now they have to pay all of this extra cost. I don't think they can afford it.
Yeah, absolutely not. I think not enough money goes into the research. Too much money goes into safety research because honestly, the models are just getting really lobotomized, but nobody really thinks about the regulational framework, appropriate regulational framework, not from a safety perspective, but from the economical perspective.
But the politicians will never come up with this, right?
Yeah.
Your idea that you described, you need to have 5 years of AI experience and thought about it deeply, right?
Yeah, that's the problem, I know.
Some politician that just does it for the money, lives in Brussels for the good paycheck to make 200K a year, and then is expected to regulate AI, it can only result in disaster.
Yeah, that's a big problem about our current setup. I hope that in the future there would be a startup that would propose not only this system, not only how to create this, but also a regulatory framework that it can then present to the government. But again, the question is whether they're going to listen to him or not, and which company should they listen to. So that's I think this is one of the most challenging problems that humanity will have to solve on path to AGI.
Depends in what future though. I thought about this, right? Even if you became the emperor of France, even if you became absolutely 100% control in one country in Europe, doesn't matter. The system is designed in a way where you cannot do anything. Because the EU will sanction you, they will ban all the other countries from trading with you, they will give you fines, they will import immigrants into your country, they will just make it so impossible. So even if someone got elected and 95% of the population of a single country supported him, you cannot do anything in Europe. The system is designed in a way where there's a referendum, there's a meeting, there's a vote, okay, delay it to next month, then it was too close, we recast it. It's designed where no big change can ever happen. I don't think this is happening. I mean, that's why I'm bullish on America, because in America, when you elect the president, he can actually do stuff. In Europe, none of the presidents can do anything.
I mean, if we compare this to Spotify, it actually won against that other company. Remember, there was this open source music sharing platform, Napster. So Spotify actually won against Napster, even though Napster was free, just because it provided more convenience and faster results to the user. So I think maybe we wouldn't even need any regulation, because simply the company that implements this system, it will win just because people will run with their data to train their models. And then their models will just get so progressively better than their competitors that they will just destroy all of the competition, and other companies will be forced to implement such a reward system as well.
Maybe, we'll see. I mean, it definitely needs to happen something on the copyright front, right? Because the data is the most valuable thing for the model.
Yeah, exactly.
But they're just getting it for free.
Yeah, I don't care about all of those lawsuits by Elon Musk. I don't care who owns OpenAI, but I really care about the incentives that we provide to humanity as a whole.
Absolutely. Okay, job loss. You think there's going to be a job loss in the short term, or do you think we're going to create more jobs with AI?
No, I think there will be a job loss in the short term for sure. There will be definitely more opportunities, but just because AI is so scalable, yeah, I don't think you will need as big of a workforce as we have today. I think people will have to train their own agents. Like we might be hired even for the AI agents that we can provide to the company rather than for our own skills.
So like the company will hire you because you come with a bunch of AI agents, or
Yeah.
at least you have a skill set.
Yeah, because you trained a few agents and you can then like distribute these agents across multiple companies.
Okay, so I mean, this kind of ties into my thesis that the easiest way to start for somebody 2025 is to be like the automation engineer, whether it's on NA10 or make.com. This is like, I think from going to zero to having a 6-figure skill is what has to be one of the fastest ways. Don't you agree?
Yeah, automations are pretty simple. And with AI, I definitely agree that automations have been significantly made more powerful because, again, AI just adds this decision making component in the process, which instantly increases the amount of possibilities. So you have more things to automate.
People think that all job loss is bad, right? But there is also a lot of inefficiency. I won't name the specific businesses, but here in Dubai, I went to certain businesses or locations where there's just like 20 people standing around. And those people aren't there standing for free. They're standing for the ticket for the customer being more expensive. And this is what people don't realize. They think like, oh, everybody should have jobs. Like we see it in the Doge in the USA, like people are crying over those, federal employees getting fired, but half of them are not doing anything. And that's just causing more inflation. It's costing the taxpayer dollars. But the same thing is for a specific business. If you go to a business and there's like 5 people at the front that are just like standing around, you're paying for that. The customer is paying for that. So if businesses become more efficient and there is, instead of like having like 10 cashiers, there is like 2 AI checkouts, then the cost of that ticket can be a lot lower.
Yeah, so definitely agree with you. This is what we've seen in our agency as well. As businesses implement AI agents, they become more efficient. So they have higher profits, which means that they could potentially reduce the price or they could scale more, right? So I think as we have more AI agents working in businesses, we will simply either have more availability for the products or they will be cheaper in the future.
Yeah, obviously, some of them will decide to pocket the money, but some of them, as you said, decide to scale. But they will do that by hiring more humans.
Not necessarily. As I said, AI agents are infinitely scalable. So as soon as you've implemented an AI agent for a specific process, you can basically scale it to the moon. Like you can scale it as much as you want without.
Yeah, but then you said the costs are nearly free for that.
Yeah. So
if you want to reinvest the profits, then you hire someone for 20K a month who's like a beast.
Yeah, you just keep working on the business. Like that's the biggest unlock with AI. Like you have more time to work on the business rather than in the business. Yeah, you can hire someone who has the playbooks. They can come in, then you can use them to automate the process even more, stuff like that.
But don't you think like even those people that get automated away, there's going to be like AI related jobs for them? Like, date labeler or like recording something or like documenting some of that process. I don't know. I think like, I don't see everybody just like pocketing the change, right? Like if someone is a billionaire, like, it's not going to buy like 10 more Lambos.
I think the data labeling is already pretty much filled. I don't think we need more data labelers. But I think what those people could do is start their own businesses. So you see, it's like if all businesses become more efficient, then the barriers for entry also get lower. So for you, it's going to be much easier to start a similar business yourself. So those people, they could go out in the world and just, start a similar business by themselves using AI agents, hopefully, maybe even through our platform in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, it was Naval Ravikant who said this on Joe Rogan podcast like 5 years ago, that he thinks in the future there's going to be like 1 billion companies, like 1, 2, 3 people companies, super specialized on one thing, right? And then, as you said, like if you super hyper obsess over one specific vertical, you can understand that better than anybody in the world. Like right now in AI, there are so many opportunities where you could be the best in the world. Like I think me and you are much closer to the cutting edge when it comes to like specific how to use AI. Maybe not like in the training of the models, right? But like how to use it in the day-to-day than people realize. Like if someone wants to get into AI and picks like some super specific, vertical for a specific niche, then they can easily within like 6 months be the best in the world in that.
Yeah, exactly. So if you have these insights, like if you've worked at a certain company for years and you understand how it works. We actually have quite a few people like that in our community who have worked at a certain position in a company. And now what they're doing is they're building agents to automate certain processes in similar companies. So you could definitely do that because, again, the barriers for entry are going to decrease. It's going to be much cheaper for you to start a new business, and you're not going to have to make all of the sacrifices that, for example, me and you had to make when we were getting started.
Yeah, it's funny because someone posted on Twitter like the entrepreneurs are the only ones who are not scared of AI at all.
Yeah.
I've never met a single entrepreneur who's like, oh my God, AI is going to destroy my business. Like, no, now I can do this more. I can do, start this, I can scale. But then again, if you take like the average employee, right? They're not just going to start the business on a happy Tuesday. I think some people really need to be fired to get that switch. It's like, oh, now I don't have a job and jobs are getting replaced. What is the alternative? The alternative is this. You can use that experience if you work 10 years in some industry to build AI agents for companies in that industry. And again, you can be one of the best in the world relatively quickly if it's like super specialized, right? So yeah. I think a lot of people need to feel that discomfort and then they make a change. Obviously, it's ideal if you make the change before you get fired. But then again, a lot of people don't think in the future. They don't see the trends. And a lot of people aren't willing to take a bit of discomfort today for a lot of gains tomorrow. So advice for everybody watching this, if you get fired because of AI, start your own business. Yeah, exactly. It has never been easier to start your own business.
Yeah, I think what you said actually makes a lot of sense, that the only people who are not scared of AI are the entrepreneurs. So I think that's definitely a clear sign that entrepreneurs are not going to be disrupted.
Yeah, there's going to be more and more entrepreneurs for sure. And also, actually, I would encourage people to take do not pick the first idea that comes to your mind. Think about, 2 weeks, a month. I was doing literally for a month. When I decided I want to build an AI startup, between committing to an idea was a month. And all I was doing, I had a Google Doc and I was like listing out all the problems I could and the solutions to them, right? And then after a month, I was like, okay, this one is the best. But a lot of people just pick the first idea they have. And also that's because they don't have many ideas. So a lot of people get so attached to like the idea their brain generates is because it's not a usual thing, right?
Yeah.
And you see this among like beginner content creators where they don't brainstorm ideas, but it's the same for startup. If you brainstorm 100 different AI agent ideas you could build and then pick one, the likelihood is that you're going to pick a good one much higher than if you pick the first one.
Yeah, that's a good approach. But I would say that the majority of people are already aware of which idea they need to do first. They just need to really think about it. Like I would say pretty much everyone who's watching this right now already has some form of expertise in a certain field. So for you, it's just not even like picking the idea, but picking the problem in that.
Yeah.
In that.
But see, okay, you say that so naturally because you're an experienced entrepreneur, but the beginner entrepreneur doesn't even realize this. Obviously, you should be solving a problem, but you are underestimating how many people just do something, build a solution that then needs to look for a problem. Like when I was in Vietnam, I've met multiple entrepreneurs that moved from USA, Europe, Canada, expensive part of the world, to Vietnam to pursue their startup idea, but it was completely shit. They didn't have any products, and actually 2 of them were AI related, but they didn't have any products. One of them was actually like copyright involved. It was like generating. I don't know. I don't want to blast it, but anyways, both of these ideas have zero product market fit. But since they moved to a cheap country, they can live there for years without having to actually solve a problem. So you say that so naturally, but you have to realize the average person starting a business just goes with a super terrible idea. It's not even a solution to any problem. That's already it puts you in the top 10%.
I see. Yeah, so definitely make sure that your solution solves a problem. That's what the word solution means.
Yeah.
Before actually building it. And always make sure to get feedback. Like, don't ever build your product for 1,000 users before you build it for one. Like, you can literally do everything manually. Like, in the beginning, what I often say to some people who schedule call work with us and who don't have a business is that go on Upwork first, hire some people, perform this process manually, see if it works, see how it should work, and only then automate it with AI agents.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't understand the process deeply, you cannot automate it.
Yeah. If you don't understand that it works, there's nothing to automate.
What do you think of these companies who do deterministic automations with the robotic process, step by step, no AI involved, no intelligence involved? Do you think they'll be destroyed?
I think there will still be a place for these companies some processes honestly don't need AI. That's, I think, also one of the problems that some companies are using AI like where it should not be used, where it's like you simply don't need AI because there's no any decision making involved in the process. So like if all of the steps are performed like the exact same way, time over time, then you don't really need AI. You're just gonna waste money on it. The AI should only be used whenever something can go wrong, whenever there's like some uncertainty in the process, whenever you need to make a certain decision in the middle. That's where AI really shines.
I see. So basically, don't put AI where AI doesn't need to be put.
Yeah, where the process is deterministic, you don't need AI. So these companies will probably still work. And actually, they could be integrated with AI as well. Like you could integrate a tool like that as a tool to an agent. Tools inside agents, they're typically deterministic. Like you just have certain parameters on the input and then you get a certain output. But the process inside the tool is the same. The agent determines like how to use the tool. So you could have, an agent that could span like those robotic process automation tools, and they can just be like certain actions inside that agent.
Yeah, so like specific things it can do that need to be like super predictable, right? No randomness, like no like hallucination, because it's plain code, but maybe the AI agent decides to run that process.
Yeah, because right now likely somebody is already using that tool in the exact same way. So there's probably like an employee that like checks whenever it should be used, then it's like clicks a button and it runs for you, right? So you can have an agent doing that. Know what role would that be? Maybe like a manager or someone. So you just send a message to an agent like, check if we need to run this or not. And if we do, it just runs it.
What prompt engineering tips do you have?
The biggest prompt engineering tip is to review your prompt frequently, I would say. It's just treating it as you would treat a blog post or an essay, like constantly checking your own writing and then also testing it with the agent in production. The second tip is to provide examples. I think examples are really important. Examples can be worth 1,000 words when you're writing prompts. So just by providing like a couple really good examples, you can save a lot of time actually writing the prompt. And the last tip I would say is to use like a template where like you have all of the components. So you don't have to like write it from scratch every time, because if you write prompts on a daily basis, then you're just going to waste a lot of time on just all of the boilerplate.
Yeah, for sure. Another nuance is how you prompt normal LLMs versus reasoning models. So reasoning models, you actually don't need to give as much context. And a lot of people make the mistake of giving the steps to a reasoning model. But it should figure out the steps in its reasoning. All you need to do is describe the outcome clearly with enough context, but then let it get to the solution. For normal model, it makes a lot more sense to lay out, these are the 4 steps, these are the 7 steps, and then the model follows them. And for a normal LLM, that will give you a much better outcome. But for a reasoning model, you want to let the reinforcement learning do its magic.
Yeah, by the way, a cool insight that we discovered is also that sometimes the sequence of paragraphs or sentences in your prompt also makes a large difference. Yeah. That's something that our agent developers observed, that sometimes you can literally just like move a sentence down if it's really important. I typically recommend you put it at the end, and this instantly makes your prompt a lot better for some reason, because the models remember the information that's closer to the last message better.
If there's something important, people need to repeat it at the start, at the end, maybe even in the middle. Like what I do with a lot of my prompts for Vectal is that if there's like a clear instruction for that model, I put it at the start, then in the middle, tell it everything it needs to know, insert, tasks, whatever, and then at the end, I repeat it. So that way, like the most important part is repeated twice at the start and the end, like where the model looks at the most at the context window, and then the model gives it the most attention.
Yeah, I think this could also work. And by the way, this relates really well to what we were talking about before, like how everybody needs to learn writing, right? So maybe actually everyone needs to learn prompt engineering rather than writing.
Okay, but see, it's easy to say that, but it's like impossible to implement, because like the educational system is like one of the most ancient creatures in the world, right? Like you have like crocodiles that lived like 3.5 million years ago, and like the second is educational system, right? It's like dinosaurs, like 200 years old, classrooms look the same, format looks the same. See, in this world, you can do a lot. You can become a billionaire relatively without friction for like outside forces. But as soon as you try to change the educational system,
I mean, I'm happy that some colleges in California are partnering with OpenAI. But yeah, I do think that after the release of ChatGPT, like even 2 years back, as soon as we had ChatGPT, like the entire educational system had to be revised.
You can go to 8 hours to a school, right? Or you can do 2 hours with ChatGPT and go through all the topics and retain it better because you can ask customized, personalized questions.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'm just wondering, like, how do we make it so that the average person actually has that insight to get better at writing or to start a business? It's easy to say like a few colleges in California, but we're talking about billions of people here.
Yeah, it's going to be really challenging. It's just hoping that there will be more partnerships like this and some schools just won't be able to ignore it anymore. I personally have ChatGPTs for everything. Like I have those custom GPTs with all of the knowledge on like every single area of my life, like business, public speaking. So I'm trying to learn public speaking. So what I did is like I literally created a ChatGPT that analyzes my transcripts, provides improvements. It has knowledge with like articles, books that I read.
Can you use GPT 4.5 in the GPTs?
No, I don't think you can use anything but GPT 4.0 at the moment. They haven't updated the custom GPT store for a while. Yeah, just completely forgot about it, unfortunately. But I don't know, maybe we'll see updates in the future.
It's crazy how that went from like the biggest hype. They were saying, oh, everybody's going to become a millionaire. Like there's going to be people selling it. Like, similar vision to what you said, right? Where people can build a custom GPT and then OpenAI will pay you for that. And now it's like completely obsolete. People even forget that it exists. Most people had never built any custom GPT.
Yeah, and right now they are also like sort of replacing it with projects, which are essentially like the same thing, except you just can't add tools.
Yeah, I mean, project is like the folder, no?
Yeah. It's like the folder. Yeah, it's the same, but
yeah. So, I mean, it's better for organization, but worse for like custom tools and less agentic.
Yeah, you can't add tools there, so yeah, it's definitely less agentic.
But I don't know. I feel like OpenAI might just delete the GPT store any day.
I think it still provides value. There are some pretty cool custom GPTs that you can use, and just the fact, that you can upload your data there is invaluable. But yeah, overall, I think it was a fail on their end. I think they should not have released it. It was like a nice thing to play with at the time. But right now, there are just like much better startups that do the exact same thing.
Okay, another thing I would like to touch on is launching ASAP. For the people who want to build an AI startup, this is one of the best things. Because you need to quickly know whether you have product market fit or not, right? If you choose an incorrect idea, you want to know quickly. You want to spend half a year on it. And a lot of people get stuck in that endless perfectionism phase where like, oh, just one more feature, right? But they never release.
Yeah, that was my first mistake when I was building my first SaaS product. So
How long ago was that?
What year?
Yeah.
It was, I would say, like 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
And yeah, the idea made sense, but overall, like I just spent like way too much time building it, and I didn't have enough attention on my product. So I like failed at marketing while I thought like, it was all about the product, and like I just kept building it by myself. And now I would have never done the same. Actually, the reason I started my YouTube channel is because I learned from my mistakes. And the second time, I actually wanted to build a community first and then build a product for that community. In my opinion, that's a much better approach because you don't shoot in the dark. Like start from, just finding a community that you really resonate with and then just go from that community, because any product ultimately comes from people. It's not like the product just originates somewhere, in a space and then comes down. It should always originate on Earth among like a group of people that need that product. And then you go from that group of people, you build more features, you make it better for them, and slowly the impact that you can make with that product grows as well.
I'm glad you mentioned this because this is so valuable. You need a distribution strategy even before choosing the idea. Like you should know how you're going to promote your product before you know how you're going to build it.
Yeah.
And like so many people, as you say, they might build something cool, but like if you're not able to get the first 10 customers, you cannot get the ball rolling, right? But if you don't have like that first 10 to 50 customers, you don't have any feedback. And you can dig yourself into a very deep hole if you only trust yourself without any input feedback. I still think like you have, as the founder, need to make the final decision, but you need the inputs from the users.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it really shows on your product, vectal.ai, because you've been able to scale it to $10,000 a month. $9,000, almost there.
Yeah.
So, but your product, it's only been in existence for how long? Like 2
Okay.
months?
Yeah, I mean, with a free plan, maybe like 1 month, but yeah,
1 month?
2 months, maybe 2.5.
Yeah, you see, so like most of the startups today, they don't even release anything until like a year or half a year. Like nothing. They just like build in their own office.
Yeah, but
by
we're not
themselves.
in San Francisco here.
Yeah.
Like, I have real expensive. I don't have infinite money, so I need to release it and I need to get revenue from real customers, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a huge motivator actually. When you're bootstrapping a SaaS, it motivates you to actually deliver features rather than just build in the dark.
And it's like a sobering thing. If you have that like millions from investors and you've never built any business, you're not in contact with reality.
Yeah, I think also, that's like the biggest risk when it comes to funding.
All right, last topic I would like to touch on is one of the biggest loopholes I recently realized. And a lot of countries are doing this, right? Say you're a political party. All you need to do is import millions of immigrants and they will always vote for you. And then you never lose another election ever again.
Okay.
This is a crazy loophole that needs to be patched. It needs to be patched and soon because it's absolutely destroying Europe and it almost destroyed America. What do you think?
Honestly, I'm not as involved into politics. I am originally from Russia. Actually, I haven't been there for almost a decade now. I lived for 5 years in the United States. I lived in Georgia. Now I moved to Dubai. And I never plan on coming back to Russia. But I can definitely see what you're talking about. I think the countries need to focus more on their own citizens rather than on whatever it is that's going on in other completely different part of the world. It's one of those loopholes that's just going to be really hard to fix because it looks good on the surface.
Yeah.
Like it's something that, a politician can say about themselves and position themselves as like something as
I mean, that's half of politics, to be honest. Saying things that sound good,
Yeah, but there's always like, whenever politicians say that something is free, that they've done something for good, just ask them like, who's going to pay for it? Nothing is free.
Bro, it's so funny you mentioned this. I'm going to pop up this tweet. I saw a tweet recently from some like news media. Would you pay more taxes for free healthcare?
Yeah, exactly.
Would you pay more taxes for free healthcare? It's like, put 2 and 2 together, bro.
Yeah. So in Russia, for example, the healthcare is free, but trust me, you don't want to go there. You don't want to get to any free hospital. Like the healthcare is free, but I've never personally used it, luckily, because I had money to actually go to a normal hospital in Moscow. Like if I show you some pictures, maybe we can put them on a screen of like free hospitals in Russia. It looks frightening. So that's why I also went to study in the United States, just because of free education in Russia is just so bad that like, you don't learn anything. While in the United States, it was really impressive on like what they were able to build with their educational systems. The colleges there are beautiful. They're huge. They're literally massive. They have all of the equipment, the schools as well. The private schools are excellent. Of course, as we said, right now we need to revise the educational system, and unfortunately it's slow. But I think if it was free, it would be much worse.
It's unfortunate that, what sounds good is like what politicians just repeat. Like all it takes to be a Czech politician, you need to repeat one sentence. Salaries as big as Germany. If you repeat this one sentence, you can be a successful Czech politician. And you attach it to your agenda, right? Like, oh, we're going to do a Green New Deal and that will result in salaries as big as Germany. Yeah. Oh, we're going to, do this socialism and then we're going to have salaries as big as Germany. I'm telling you, this is Czech politicians, like most of them, is literally just this. Promise, because everybody wants to have higher salaries, right? Like the difference in Czech Republic, Germany is like 2x, 2.5x. Everybody wants to be paid 2.5x more.
Yeah.
But obviously it comes at a cost, right? So this is the question everybody has been waiting for. What's your skincare routine?
Yeah, people have been asking me in comments. What's interesting is that I actually don't have a skincare routine because it's all about just what you eat. Yeah. Skin is just like one of the indicators.
It's the biggest organ of you.
Yeah, it's like just an indicator of how well your body is doing, how well you're feeling right now. So if you have like some skincare problems, it's most likely that you either have like some condition or you're just simply eating garbage. So for me, I only eat meat. I've been on a carnivore diet for almost a year, and that's how I feel best. So when I eliminated like everything, all of the processed foods, that's, an easy win. If you eliminate just all of the processed foods, most likely your skin is going to be perfect in like the next month or so. But for me, like even any sugars, even any like fruit, any carbs, just I don't feel good when I eat carbs. So I just completely remove them, and now I feel really well.
So the secret is just diet, just the basics, diet, good sleep, exercise.
Yeah, I think honestly people underestimate how much of an impact a good diet can make on your personal productivity. It's like everyone is trying to focus on like the techniques, like, the 2-minute rule, like focusing on the right things. That's all important, but I think it all inherently comes from your health, from how well you're feeling. Like your productivity, it has to originate somewhere. It's all energy. So you have to first, have energy in order to be productive. And only then you can optimize it with certain techniques.
Also making decisions, right? Like, I don't understand how people can sleep 5 hours and then the next day make some decisions. If I have shit sleep, I'm not making any decisions. I'm just doing like the safe work. I'm leaving those for a day where I have 9 hours sleep. I think that's another thing. Like sleep is so, I don't know, like entrepreneurs, think they're Elon Musk. Like you're not Elon Musk, Like he's like one of one, and he can sleep 6 hours and then perform, right? The average person, if they sleep 6 hours, they're gonna be a lot slower. They're gonna learn slower. They're gonna retain less information, make worse decisions, blah blah blah, right? And also, let's be honest, people are not working 15 hours a day. It's not like you need to sacrifice that extra hour and for that to be your sleep, right? If you are really working that, maybe, but 99.9% of you are not utilizing your waking hours. So why would you sacrifice to sleep?
Yeah, and I, for example, recently, not recently, like a few months ago, eliminated completely all caffeine. Before I used to drink tea. I used to drink coffee like a few years ago as well. But for me right now, it's just the clarity of my mind is the most important. Because for me, it's just right now, it's all about making the right decisions. Like before, I used to drink a lot of tea because it was all about implementation. Like before, when I used to code myself and I used to build solutions by myself for each client, that's when I really, I think I needed caffeine just to, get me going and just build those things. But right now, it's like when it comes to just making decisions, it's really important for you to just have clarity of mind. And I think it's going to be like even more important once the models get progressively smarter.
But I think it's a good podcast, almost 3 hours. We went through a lot, a bunch of AI
Insane.
stuff, bunch of fun stuff. And yeah, I'm looking forward to do it in the future.
Yeah, thanks, bro. It was a pleasure.